This is the AM News on the AM Show. Let's begin from Parliament, where the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, is asking the Electoral Commission to listen to the voice of the people and do what is right. He says the EC will only have the backing of Parliament if it works or if it conducts its work in the right direction. The Speaker said this when he addressed the UDS Hamatan School in Tamale. Martina Bugri reports.
The UDS Hamatan School, organized by the UDS Institute for Interdisciplinary Research, is a platform that brings together intellectuals and experts from diverse fields to deliberate on the issues of development of the country and proffer solutions to these issues. This year's school brought together security and development aspects, among others, to deliberate on the theme Accountable Governance, Violent Extremism, and the 2024 elections. The Speaker, Alban Bagbin, warned that the Electoral Commission will be on its own if it's seen as pushing the agenda of someone.
And so if the Electoral Commission does its work properly, we are then enabled to pass the law. Electoral Commission doesn't pass laws. Laws are passed by Parliament. So they should take note. This is a very important occasion. That's why I'm saying all this. They should make sure that they listen to the good people of Ghana and do what is right, and we will support them. We even go out of our way to source for resources to empower them to do what is right. But if they think they are for any other person's agenda, Parliament will not be with them.
The Northern Regional Minister, Shani Al-Hassan Shaibu, said with the negative impact of election-related violence, there was the need for political actors to be cautious when beating war drums prior to elections.
Election-related violence cannot be taken for granted, no matter when and where it happens. Election-related violence, be it before, during, and after elections, has a negative impact on the electoral process and the democratization of our country. Election violence leads to the destruction of economic infrastructure and scares away much needed foreign investment. Once a country is engulfed in violence, not only will investors shy away from the country, but those already in the country are most likely to relocate to safer environments. Even the possibility that a pending election is likely to turn violent can influence potential investors to adopt a wait-and-see attitude, possibly to invest only after peaceful elections are over.
The Vice-Chancellor for the University of Development Studies, Professor Saidu Al-Hassan, said the UDS has established a research fund with a seed money of $10,000 to undertake research.
Honorable Mr. Speaker, the fund aims at promoting research work in various fields, including basic and applied sciences, social science and humanities, as well as the health sciences. How much is the fund? Ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to announce to you that with all the checks we have done, the university is starting with a $100,000 research fund. As soon as the Speaker launches this fund, I'm going back to my office and I'm going to sign a check of the value of 500,000 Ghana cedis to start with it.
Meanwhile, the members of the Bono East Regional Queen Mothers Association are appealing to the two major political parties, the NDC and the NPP, to embark on clean campaigns as means of curbing political violence across the region. President of the association and Queen Mother of the Amantin Traditional Council, Nana Sewa Bonsu Brakatu II, made this call at a meeting in Techiman with the National Women's Organizer of the NDC. Anna Sabit has more.
The Bono East Regional House of Queen Mothers are appealing to the two major political parties in the country, the NDC and the NPP, to stay away from engaging into acts of political violence in the build-up to the 2024 December elections. President of the Bono East Paramount Queen Mothers Association and Queen Mother of the Amantin Traditional Council, Nana Sewa Bonsu Brakatu II, made this call at a meeting with constituency, regional and national executives of the National Democratic Congress in Techiman.
Now campaign no do mensada mensayem yedi nyame sere wo mu so ye ma to mu ye mobo said e be ya edu ha ombe we bibi aboko na de nyame asire hene no enye dan ya de nyame aka ne bebe.
Member of Parliament for Pro East constituency, who doubles as the leader of the region's parliamentary caucus, lauded the call by the Queen Mothers and charged them to be agents of peace and development.
Nananom ahima eni emma titru ewo asode kese pa do muso ena eba dodo nso akabiba mi kabi aban ye de dodo na ye emma nso na doso eti emma ekase enne sebe abatu ebesesa aban a ye besesa aban omo na doso omo so de wo abatiba eti emma de omo hia pa wa mayosemu.
Regional chairman of the NDC, Yunus, also reiterated the NDC's commitment towards peace and admonished the Queen Mothers to support the party to enable it embark on major developmental projects across the region.
Na ahema for amashia ni nyina na no disem say omo support e de ama Lordina Muhammad oni ni kunu John Dramani mama sakon na omo kon omo ta omachi 7 December no omo kwa akobonto ani duru ha omo beto omo ba man. Some of the
Queen Mothers present lauded the leadership of the NDC for the engagement and pledged their commitments towards preaching peace ahead of the next polls.
After 2024, abatwa yebesire nyame asre mpaye abompaye se nyame ohuru ye mobo na afi oma yasumbe na wakase obi akọ campaign obi ahwenka de obetimi aye enko kasa ntie obi okọ kasa tie obi a ono so be kasa tie awo ni nyina enfa sumdwe ma enti obi ahwen ni ne lewe na wonka de obetimi aye campaign ye bedrusi tokwasem enye obi wo ha kitikiti na obi akotutuo na ode akuwei na obi agesre se bre no so se wo mo be ye campaign na obia hwe no so yie ma obi meso wabasa se bagi sika na koye we.
Also present at the meeting is the National Women's Organizer of the NDC, Dr. Hannah Bisiu, constituency executives from the 11 Bono East constituencies, amongst others. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
Anti-corruption agencies in the country are strongly pushing for an amendment to the country's electoral laws to compel political parties to disclose their source of funding for campaigns ahead. Executive Secretary of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Beauty Emefanati, says political parties disclosing their funding sources will help curb vote buying and over-monetization of elections in the country. There's more in the following report.
In December 2024, Ghanaians will head to the polls to elect the next president and members of parliament. A major concern for stakeholders in election, especially anti-corruption agencies, is the over-monetization of elections as the cost involved in contesting political office in the country continues to rise. The Executive Secretary of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Beauty Emefanati, believes political parties must disclose their funding sources as a way of curbing corruption.
When you look at the cost of elections, It is mind-boggling how one candidate will be able to generate those funds by themselves without necessarily being funded from other means. And unfortunately for us, our Political Party Act does not provide us with a transparent process where we even identify people who are political financiers. And that is why, as Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, we continue to insist that if we don't do anything about our asset declaration law, we are joking in this country. Because when people come into political office, they come in, some are even indebted, but they come to use our public office to pay off their debt. But because our asset declaration laws are weak, we are not able to understand or appreciate how they come into office. And we are not able to even verify the asset declaration they put in. So that is why we are advocating that, and we are hoping that the Nanado government, before its term elapses the coming election, it should be able to pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill that will help us to verify asset declaration.
The capacity building workshop organized by the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition in collaboration with the Ghana Integrity Initiative and African Center for Energy Policy, with funding support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, seeks to enhance the media's capacity to contribute to the fight against serious and organized crime during elections. Beauty Emefanate underscored the role of the media in fighting serious and organized crimes during elections.
So we want journalists to understand these things, these connections. So today we had this training targeted at journalists, helping them to understand when we say serious organized crime, what exactly is serious organized crime? When we also talk about electoral offenses, what are they? So that our journalists will be well armed to be able to sensitize the general public in their reportage, and also to be able to identify crucial places in their investigation, and then unearth these things. You know, until we are able to expose the corrupt, Ghana will lose. And so we need to work together. We need to arm our journalists to expose those who are behind illegal activities. And if they are using it to fund electoral processes or political elements, then we can be able to expose them and also name and shame them, and if possible, prosecute them.
Team lead for Fact Check Ghana at the Media Foundation for West Africa, Kweku Krobi Asante, indicated the training is important to equip journalists ahead of the elections.
Essentially, around the elections, there's a lot of spending, a lot of corruption-related and organized crime-related issues that come up, because elections here in Ghana comes with a lot of investment, people pulling monies here, stuff like that, kickbacks, vote buying, vote selling, and all those conversations. So it was important that we bring all key stakeholders to come and share thoughts on where journalists should pay attention to, how they should understand these issues, how they should report these matters, so that we can help reduce, the incidence of these election-related corruption and serious organized crime.
That's it from our election headquarters. Now, away from that, family of 27-year-old musician at Loho in the Upper West region, Amos Zumantre Zelensky, wants the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry and the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, to set up an independent committee to look into the alleged shooting to the death of the young man and bring the perpetrators to book. Skelenzi, who also doubles as a farmer and considered to be the breadwinner of the family, was allegedly shot by a police personnel whilst returning from a funeral at Kalio with his friend Fidelis Bogati at Loho Primary RC School Park. Rafiq Salam reports that Loho community is enveloped with sadness, grief and anger.
27-year-old Fidelis Bagabori on January 8 this year was riding as a pillion with his bosom friend and promising young musician Amos Zumachere, known on stage as Kelenzi. They were returning from a funeral in the dead of the night when they were allegedly shot by one of two policemen at the football field of Low RC Primary School. The duo were first alerted to stop using a flashlight, who they obliged. Without any word from the police or provocation from their victims, one of the police personnel pointed his gun at them and allegedly fired the shots multiple times through the abdomen of Amos, sending him to the rough sandy corrugated football pitch. I alerted Amos the people flashing the torchlight are police personnel and asked him to exercise patience. In our attempt to stop in front of them, they fired gunshots at us. The pellets went into the abdomen of Amos. Mine, it went through my head and got out through my buttocks, hitting the seat of my motorbike carrier. They did not ask us any question. The policeman who allegedly shot Amos went for a private vehicle for him to be taken to the Upper West Regional Hospital for medical attention. He went and picked the vehicle together with another police personnel who came to help us carry him into the vehicle. I didn't even know that I was wounded by the bullet until when we kept Amos into the car. Fidelis expressed surprise about the behavior of the police, stating that one of them is personally known to him and has even dealt with him before. If I see them, I can properly identify them. One of them is very well known to me, and I even know his name. At the Upper West Regional Hospital, doctors conducted several hours of surgery on Amos to remove the multiple pellets that has pierced through his abdomen. The surgery was successful, but Amos passed on after 20 days. His body has since been deposited at the Upper West Hospital's morgue, waiting for autopsy. Amos's mother, Lucy Zumachere, told us the last words of her son at his hospital bed before he passed on.
He said, "Mama, I know I will die. Please take care of my children for me. Take care of my two children for me." After that, he clung onto the metals on the bed, crying whilst lamenting. My mom will not have anybody to take care of her.
During his stay at the hospital, he was visited twice by the Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP D.O. Lamote, and at his home to commiserate with his family when he passed on. This is the exact place where the incident is alleged to have taken place, which is about 300 meters away from the police barrier located on the main road. For the umpteenth time, the police have refused to speak on this issue, whilst the families of the victims wallow in pain that will last beyond their lives.
That was Rafiq Salam there. Now, Asante Hene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II says he's brought the spirit and soul of Ashanti back after he received artifacts looted from Kumasi about 150 years ago at the Meshia Palace. 7 golden artifacts looted from Kumasi in 1874 found their way to the Fowler Museum in California, United States. Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II secured the artifacts after several failed attempts by his predecessors, including Otumfuo Agyemang Prempeh II. Ohiming Tewia reports.
British soldiers took away gold artifacts when they looted Kumasi following the Ashanti War in 1874, 150 years ago. 3 successive Asante Hennes before Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II failed to secure their return. 7 artifacts, including sikamina, necklaces, armbands and anklets, all made of pure gold, and esipim, a silver stool used by Otumfuo Kofi Kakari, kept at the Fowler Museums in California, USA, have been returned to the Asante Hene.
My colleagues and I are grateful to Your Majesty for allowing us to present this work to you on this 150th commemoration of the Ashanti War.
Professor Kwesi Ampene of the Department of Music at the Tufts University at Massachusetts, United States, facilitated the return of the artifacts. He tells Joy News in an exclusive interview that the Asante Hene is happy at the return of the artifacts, which he says contain the spirit of Asantis.
When we came here, Otumfuo, His Majesty, he said that he has been able to return our soul back to, its original place. The items are still items that are, have spiritual relevance to us. They still have that relevance to us. They are still active. They will be activated and they will be used. The asipim chair will be used. The sikamina will be used. The necklaces, the armband, all of them have this same spiritual for us.
According to Professor Ampene, who has written and researched extensively on Asante culture and tradition, the items have spiritual relevance to the Asante Kingdom.
If they don't have the spiritual essence, how would they be taken away and move from one place to another place? But in 150 years, it will come back to its original source. That is what we have to know, that the power in this is not just a regular art. It is something deeper than that.
So why were the artifacts returned to the Asante Hene? Sylvia Forney is a director at the Fowler Museum.
The objects are important because they are a catalyst to tell stories. So when we discovered that the objects that we had, the 7 objects, were related to the looting of Kumasi of 1874 or to the indemnity that the Asante were forced to pay to the British after the end of the war, we knew that these had to come back.
The Asante Hene also says no attempt to sideline or denigrate the Asante Kingdom will succeed. He says the kingdom has stood the test of time despite 2 unprovoked British-led wars in the olden days in an attempt to wipe out the kingdom. Oheming Tewia again.
Thursday's Durbar at the Mensha Palace was held under mixed feelings by Asante chiefs, led by the Asante Hene, Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II. Dubbed Kuntunkuni Thursday, chiefs of Asante from all over Ghana wore black cloth in memory of the devastation the Ashanti War brought onto the Asante Kingdom. The British Army, led by Major General Garnet Worsley, staged an unprovoked attack on Asante, razed its capital Kumasi, and looted gold and ornaments. Over 4,000 soldiers of the dreaded Asante army were killed, including its warlord, Bantmahini Bafo Amankwetia, and several other prominent Asante chiefs. Sounds of gunfire and firing of musketry hovered over the Mensha Palace as Asante chiefs marked the anniversary of the war. It also marked the return of 7 artifacts returned from the Fowler Museum at the University of California in the United States.
We are delighted to see them come back to the palace and to the descendants of the rightful owners.
Asante Hene, Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, who officially received the artifacts, called for unity as he spoke about failed attempts to destroy the Asante kingdom.
Nemom dia wasa Ghana fo hunu ne se wo ye dan wutumi Asante free Ghana se muda amoyefo asofo when wutumi Asante free muda wo kaso be Asante free wo de time better ye ebebu afa so nunti mom ye nyina mom ye mfa don enkambom ne enta yani etra dem popoditi Asante man ye nya na enye ye ya de doni nkabomo na te ha menanan mo wo zongo nyina menanan me wo mo te afefefe anwura fo me ne na te ama me ya baabi ya te fe na anwuraga enzima fo me ne na te enzima hene beta traditional council Enfantifo ehine wa ha wotimu bi na de bone ni aye edo ben ye nche ko ba bi so obenya Ashanti no tan wo ho a na adenti ni ye kire do we na so mo de tan Asia ye momie nyina nya ba ko ni enfa mo Ghana man.
From the Ashanti region, let's now go to the Volta region, where the 1981-year group of Zion College in Anga has handed over a renovated one-story classroom block named the Charity Block to the school. The project was initiated as part of their commitment to giving back to the alma mater and ensuring that future generations of students at Zion College have a conducive learning environment. Ivy Sotaji reports.
The Charity Block, which was in a state of disrepair, has undergone a remarkable transformation thanks to the dedicated efforts of the 1981-year group. The project was initiated as part of their commitment to giving back to their alma mater and ensuring that future generations of students at Zion College, Anga, have a conducive learning environment. The short ceremony commenced with welcome remarks from the school's headmistress, Miss Nutifafa Ablan Kwaokume, who expressed gratitude to the 1981-year group for their selfless contribution, emphasizing the positive impact the renovated block would have on the academic experience of the students. She, however, called on all students of Zion College Anga to come to the aid of the school to help solve some infrastructure issues as well as other important problems faced by the school which need urgent attention.
With regards to infrastructure development, I suggested each year group adopts a project. Today's gathering is a result of the work of the 1981 group of past students. Past students' response to such appeal that I made about the development process and the infrastructure development of this noble institution. Upon survey of the premises, he realized the need to refurbish the building. The initial plan was to work on the ground floor. However, upon consultation and collaboration, the 1981 group took over the renovation of the entire block. When you turn there, behold the magnificent Charity Block. If you turn again, behold how it grows, surpassing even recently built structures in the school. I shall continue and extend the appeal to the government, the district assembly, all students, parents association, companies, business ventures, and all NGOs to support us in the educational enterprise to build a magnificent academy for the current and future generations.
During the official handover, the spokesperson for the 1981-year group, Mr. Thomas Adade, shared insights into the inspiration behind the project.
But as a result of
organizing our year group, that is 1981 year group, to can sort of what? Solidarity and then the relationship. To build that relationship that we have started some years back. After several years of leaving school, we have not seen each other. But we deem it necessary to organize this group so that we can be meeting frequently. But when we normally meet, the only thing that we do is to share glasses and plates. And we feel that that is not enough. We need to give back to society. Because in a secondary education, that is a place that your life is shaped. So we decided that this is the block that we use when we were here to attend school. So in looking at the block, we enter the classroom, there's sand everywhere. The floor is completely dilapidated. So we decided to to refurbish the floor and then remove all the windows and then the dilapidated windows and all others and then replace them with new one.
Ivy Setoji, Joy News, Ziku, Anga.
That's it for the AM News on the AM Show. Let's now begin a series of conversations that matter to you, beginning with a news review. Benjamin and I are back in a jiffy. Please stay. Welcome back on the AM Show. It's time now for the news review with me, Sweetie Abochi, and Benjamin Akapo. Benjamin, like
You're
you do to
me.
yes, I'm hosting you. Like you do to your
Please,
guests
your
every
guest.
time
I'm
on the
guest.
show. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to tell me what you're thinking this morning about the most topical issue in the country.
Are you sure you want me to do this?
Yes, I want you to do this.
You want me to?
You're my guest,
Anyway,
Benjamin. What's on your mind this morning?
It's something I'm going to share my blunt thoughts on.
Right.
So I wouldn't go too far into it. By the way, I've titled my blunt thoughts for this morning, A Tsunami of Political Promises Cutting Surgically to the Truth. A tsunami of political promises cutting surgically to the truth. The things I'm going to say this morning, some people will not like, but some people will say it's your opinion, but I think if you read between the lines, you'll see where our politicians are taking us. And I'm not just saying one person or only one party, but both major parties in this country. But today I'll be narrowing down on just one. But I think I started sharing yesterday about Dr. Baumia and some of what he's saying.
Right.
The credit scoring system, I think that is a plus.
Okay.
It's something that, others have spoken about before, and it's something that would work, I believe, if we got it right.
Yeah.
But the rest of the stuff, talking about scrapping national service, I was like, who gave this advice? Go to South Korea. They are now, military recruitment or getting them to do military service as part of their training. I've said that if I had my way, of the 10 months or so of national service, about 3 or at least 2 will be spent in the barracks. Getting no one is harassing you. No one is, and from that pool, you could actually get those who are very interested rather than the MPP4 bra, NDC4 bra that we do, that kind of recruitment that we do.
But talking about this national service issue and on the back of graduate unemployment, the employable percentage of graduates that the universities churn out every year are only employable because they have some sort of experience from serving in various corporate roles.
And it's a point I have made.
It's very pivotal. You did, huh?
It's a point I have made that, not this morning before you, but that a lot of these, if you pick a chunk of our tertiary students who graduate, they have practically no work experience. This is their first attempt at anything, at messing up, at learning, at knowing what a memo is, at knowing that you don't say the reason why, you say the reason, at basic things they need to learn before they're introduced to the job market. There are exceptions. There are some who are brilliant, excellent, off the bat, who may have had experience because they've traveled abroad or done a few things. But the ordinary person, tertiary student, trust me, they're not ready. So I asked myself, who is thinking through all of these things? Then you say bordering on corruption, which I felt he didn't want to talk about, but publishing of contracts for public scrutiny. And I looked at it and felt, okay, how about now? You have the Declaration of Assets in the 1992 Constitution.
Okay.
What are we doing with it?
Nothing.
So even when the media wants information about someone who is mired in something, you'll never get that information about their assets. And even worse, we focus on assets, forgetting liabilities. So someone can have 2 houses, 3 cars, and that's it. So they've declared their assets, right? But they can still be very corrupt. You know why? Maybe they are owing 1 billion Ghana cedis to somebody. So when they steal, it goes into defraying the debt. It's a liability. You will not see it because they've not added anything onto themselves, but they are still stealing. Yeah. There are so many loopholes. You say you're now going to publish contracts and do X, Y, Z. I mean, honestly, I just think seriously that our politicians on all sides, I'm sorry to say this, think we are fools. And they can say anything and get away with it. But let me leave it there. I'll go surgical in my blunt strokes.
I think that was an interesting choice of topic. But one thing that also was really interesting to me was that Bawumia says that they're particularly happy that they've digitalized our identification system. I think that for every country, that is a very basic that you should do. Identification, digitization. You should know who you have in your country, their names, and the country's streets and towns should have names. If this is what you have to brag about, while other people are talking about fast trains and cleaner forms of energy, and you want to talk about identification, I thought that was a low blow. I didn't actually have any expectations, Benjamin, of this speech. And then I watched Evans and Winston on the build-up to the actual speech, and I thought, wow, okay, there's something must come out of this. Yeah. And then I watch and I hear 24 hours a day with little to nothing. But let's get into the papers this morning. I will start with the Daily Graphic. Let's do some headlines. Of course, what we're talking about, it says public scrutinizes Bawumia's vision. That is on the front page of the Daily Graphic. The story is actually on page 3. And then it says, economic hardship, insecurity spike in Mali. That's another headline on page 5. On page 7, it says, changing perceptions to increase agri productivity. I think this is an editorial. It talks about how agriculture is now the way to go, industrialization
it's always
and all
been
that.
The way to go.
Yeah, but it hasn't been the focus for us as a country. But the youth are picking up.
Agric has always been the focus. I mean, here's the point.
Okay.
It's always been the focus, and it's always not been the focus.
Okay, explain what you mean.
Even before, even in the independence period. I mean, farming cocoa and other things. They were up there, But it's always been a focus. But what we need to make agriculture actually deliver the goods to us is what we're not doing. I keep saying from my experience in Brazil, the richest, some of the wealthiest people there, whose children are in Ivy League institutions in the States, who drive the flashiest cars. And cars are very expensive in Brazil, owing to their own peculiar system, right? They're farmers. Farmers.
Right.
There's this Reverend Evans something. Recently, I saw him on, I think it was Oyeripa, ranting about farming and the cost of everything. He farms cassava and a few other things. We've not focused, and it's been the backbone of our economy for decades. And now it is losing its place because we are not doing enough. You go to the Sisala West area, where the MP says they are the cereals, hub for the country. Now people are smuggling them to Burkina Faso and the rest. So it is, but at the same time, it isn't because we've not prioritized it.
And I was saying that it's the approach to it. There are a lot of loopholes to punch when it comes to, if this agriculture is really the backbone of our economy, we have land, vast land, lucrative for farming and all that, but the approach to it has not been the best, which is why these days I see a lot of young people graduate who are picking up farming. They're not waiting on government to give them jobs anymore. A lot of these small farming companies are producing things, dried fruits, grow it all. You see them around in the market, and they're all Ghanaian-made products. Yeah. And it's quite impressive, to say.
And that's why I like it when I don't know about Senor Jose. I think he may as well, but even the Winston Amwes, Winston, our colleague, he's into farming. He rears pigs. Okay. So that's animal husbandry. Right. It's also part of farming. The likes of Dr. Kwame Asanti, he farms tilapia. He has his own aquaculture, whatever thing going on. Right. The John Dumelos have their farms, ginger, among other things. Yeah. I think we need a leader. And when you refer to Ignatius Kutu Echampong, some people say, oh, you're referring to a coup maker, a couist, a putschist. It doesn't matter. he made agriculture, farming sexy. We need to make agriculture sexy for young people. Me, if I had a certain level of resources, because I've worked in the cashew processing chain, and cashew kilogram for kilogram will earn you way more than cocoa, right?
Okay.
So if I had my way and if I had the resources, I would go into massive cashew farming. It's a long-term investment, but when you start reaping, it's amazing. Rubber trees are there. Cassava, there's so much you can do with cassava. But we're sitting on our rears, and the worst part, we don't work on the raw stuff to ensure that we are getting refined stuff. So when you send the raw material out there, it's like chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Belgium is the chocolate Brussels, chocolate capital of the world. They don't produce cocoa there. You ask yourself why. They get it from all these countries, process, sell back to us at exorbitant prices.
And even on their
because
packaging,
we refuse to think.
Yeah, their packaging tells you the percentage of cocoa that know comes from Ghana.
Yeah.
And you wonder what we are doing with our cocoa and all the resources that we have. But also let's go back to the newspapers now. And we're talking about the headlines before we get into the actual stories. It says governments to appoint more women and persons with disabilities. I think that's a great initiative.
It is.
If they're going to appoint more women and persons, inclusive government is the way to go. What do you have, though?
I have the Daily Guide newspaper, the Ghanaian Times newspaper as well. The Daily Guide says, Guta president hails poor taxes reform. Former youth sports minister dies in India. And that is a sad development. This was a man I knew personally, the late Dr. Mustafa Ahmed. He was a dentist, I believe. He had a practice on the Nima stretch towards Konka. Baumia is a man of destiny, Kufuor says so. Kaswa murder suspect demands DNA test, and Manchia holds 150th Sagrenti War Derby. From my readings, Sagrenti, you know where it came from?
Sir Garnet Wolseley.
Yeah. And they couldn't say Sir Garnet Wolseley, so Sagrenti.
We have a lot of those.
We have a lot of those in English. They just skip my mind, but we have a number of them.
Yeah.
I think Six Miludu is one of them, and there are others.
What is the actual thing for Six?
I've forgotten, but there's something. There's something in there. Kurtz denies interfering in coaches' roles. That's a Kurt Okreku.
Yeah.
And as for our football, I don't even want to go there. It's another mess on its own. Messi faces Hong Kong government. It said that they played this team in Hong Kong, and he was being taken on by the administration because they had sold the match based on the fact that he would play, and Opana didn't play. And his team in recent times, people have been comparing his team to Al Nassr. Al Nassr gave them 6 to nothing. Oh yes, it was a drubbing, a thrashing, a thumping, a beating, an annihilation, an obliteration,
a massacre,
a total massacre, slaughter.
Okay.
And Zero didn't even play. So if he had played, they would come back to 10. Then they go and play some Japanese team. I've forgotten the name. And they also give it to them. And I was like, Inter Miami, why? At least won't Messi and DR Congo players abandon anthem to show solidarity. So that's it. Then the Ghanaian Times disclosed funding sources.
Yeah.
I'll be getting into the story.
Yeah.
Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition demands as it pushes political parties to promote campaign finance transparency and protect the integrity of the electoral process. Dr. Vice President, as you talk big about your promises, focus on these ones too, because your administration has been tagged with enough corruption for you to be concerned. Asante receives first batch looted regalia from University of California on loan. Okay. NRSA begins. You want to talk about that?
I wanted to talk about, former President Kufuor saying that Baumia is the man.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Let me just clear the headlines.
Please go ahead.
NRSA begins commercial road transport e-registration next month to improve safety. And I'll encourage Ghanaians to have mindset of possibilities. Veep declares as he outlines 15 broad areas to tackle. Then Ashanti Warrior clinches LBO Intercontinental title. I'm talking about rising featherweight sensation Stanley Nyantechi. Reminds me of Kwesi Nyantechi. There was this joke back then. Kwesi Nyantechi. Like Kwesi, wake up Techi.
Nyantechi. Okay. Well, in the, sorry, are you done with that?
The final rivals, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire clash and blockbuster AFCON final showdown. Which team do you think will scrape through?
Nigeria.
Yeah. You know, now I'm lost because I didn't want either team to go to the final. Cote d'Ivoire, after some of the ways they peppered us, I think 92, Senegal 92. And in the finals, what happened? And then the fact that it would be another gong. I think both of them are on 3 or something, the trophies. I don't want them to catch up with Ghana or surpass Ghana. So that's
my association with Nigeria is purely based on relationship. I have quite the Nigerian crowd. And if Ghana is not there to, do what we used to do in another lifetime ago, then Nigeria is my best bet.
If it were relationships, then I should be the one full Monty on Nigeria. Because Charlie, my ties there are Emupi.
Yeah, but go Eagles. Sunday I'll find some Nigerian jersey anyway. But the Daily Statesman has Baumia's vision good for business as the headline. I don't know who is saying that. Yes,
that's the Guta.
Okay, he's happy about reforming port services. Apiache contractors urged to focus on external works before. This story of Apiache. What do you think about Apiache or Apiache?
Whichever way you pronounce it. But it's a long-standing issue, and I just hope that they get it right and sort those matters out.
It says Ghana launches non-resident visitors health insurance, also in the Daily Statesman. And then raiding development funding for climate, talking about climate issue and, the weather we have these days, global warming and all of that. Government's direct suspension of VAT, yes, the 15% VAT implementation on electricity consumption.
But the people say they've not been formally communicated to.
I saw a statement from the Finance Ministry to
that effect.
Yes,
was this yesterday?
Organized labor 2 days ago.
Was this yesterday? Because they are still saying, as of yesterday, they were still insisting that they wanted to be formally communicated to.
So they wanted to be engaged directly?
I don't know what it is, but they say until then, February the 13th is still looming.
Yeah. I saw a press statement or something yesterday where they were saying that Transport Union, everyone is joining them on the 13th to go on demonstration. But let's get into the actual stories, Benjamin.
Okay, so let's do that very quickly. The Daily Guide, Guta President hails port taxes reform, and
Nana Bediako is back in the news.
Do you mean Cheddar?
Yes,
Nana Kwame Bediako.
Nana Kwame Bediako is back in the news. NKB.
What's it about?
He's saying that he's going to reform policies, and I struggle to actually pinpoint one exact thing that he's going to do, one actionable point, something that he wants to do. Tell me.
I know one.
Tell me.
He's going to teach us all the way to wisdom, which leads you to money. Do you remember?
Yes, because he uses wisdom and relationships to make money.
I think that's a skill he must teach all Ghanaians.
I want to find the story. I wonder what...
And I'm very serious about that. We need that skill, the money-making, that wisdom. The difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing. Yeah. Wisdom is the application.
Yes.
So I think he needs to share that wisdom with all Ghanaians so that, Charlie, who don't like money? Maybe
that's his secret, Everyone
of course,
has...
through the right channels, let me add.
Yeah.
Through the right channels.
The legal channels. Well, he says the leader of the New Force movement, Nana Bediako, has underscored the country's industrial sector as a significant driver of growth and has therefore stressed on the need to leverage the abundant natural resources to improve the economy and attract investment. In terms of policy, let me skip to here. He says, as part of his policies, Nana Bediako said he wanted to introduce an industrial revolution and would impact the entire nation. Like I keep saying, he says a lot. He's actually a good talker. But I struggle to find actionable points in his speeches, in his presentations. What
these people striving to try and lead Ghana don't know is, Charlie, you are talk.
Ghanaians,
we have gone past the talk.
We have shock absorbers.
You better show something. See, the politicians have shown us that they can do matrical pan. In Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart.
Yeah.
Eneka, the bird says that if the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, it has learned to fly without perching.
Yes.
Share. This year, like some people will say, we don't go grieve for anybody.
No, hashtag no grieve for anybody. Yesterday, Baumia was trending on Twitter because of his speech. And at some point, I felt bad for him. Coming from someone who had no expectations and listening to what Ghanaians had to say, the shock absorbers we have now for our politicians. It's just the same as we have for our national football team. Nothing shocks us anymore. I don't think that any Ghanaian or any young person is expecting that the next president will come and actually live up to expectation. And that would rather be the shock. If someone came, assumed the presidency seat, and actually took steps to reform, recover, stabilize, and do things that helps the country to grow. Hallelujah. That will be a day that. Like
it do you so right now it's like a child that instead of having different ways to guide, you're always hitting, lashing. It gets to the point where the lashes mean nothing. Like Odeshi, give me more. Like show me. What else will you do?
What will you show me? Anyway, governments to appoint more women. I want to do this story because I love women.
Right.
The government is determined to ensure that a significant number of women and people living with disabilities are appointed to serve in various metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. The Minister of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Dan Butchie, has said this. Now, consequently, he said the majority of the 30% of government appointees to the 259 MMDs would be inaugurated on Monday, February 12th, and women and persons living with disabilities will be part of that number. So we are looking forward to seeing how that actually works. Benjamin, any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but the implementation, that's where the devil always is, in the detail. So let's see how they execute. That's what I would say.
And a story about
me, I've always been for more women. I feel we have a paucity of women in parliament, in all the strata of our leadership, from top to bottom, from assembly, district from assembly, unit committee, district to the highest. I feel there's such a yawning gap in there. And it's proven that wherever there are more females in leadership, there's better governance, whether it's a company or whatever. Women naturally, look, I always say it's like driving. Women, we're more aggressive drivers. I know some women, Charlie, they are like,
buga.
Yeah, but women more often than not have certain natural traits and characteristics that make them in some ways better in judgment, in leading in most capacities. I honestly say that. So it's good. You can have the men, it's a balance. Enough men to come through with and enough women also, the soft side, rational thinking on some points. And you get to go. We have a paucity of women and it's a problem. Yeah. Big problem.
Which is why I was quite sad to see that some women on the New Patriotic Party tickets lost their seats to represent their constituency. But some of the women who lost their seats, Ghanaians jubilated over that. You know who I'm talking about?
Which ones? Tina Menza and Co?
No.
Or which ones? Adjo Asafo.
Yes, Adjo Asafo.
Hey, they jubilated.
Yeah.
But Charlie, the gap was serious.
It was serious. I think it just speaks to the fact that Ghanaians are tired now. And I don't know if this is our clarion call that we need to start doing something, which is why I'm particularly happy that organized labor is leading this initiative. These are the sort of things I read about in history books, that Ghanaians came together, demonstrated, did this, demanding that their voices be heard by government. And so I like that I'm alive and seeing this, and I'm actively participating in, if they will listen to us and actually do what we say, that is the day. Benjamin, any story in there that particularly catches your attention?
Baumia is man of destiny, Kufuor says so. But before I get to that, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, has expressed his joy at the speech delivered by Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, which tends to do away with a number of taxes should he get elected as president in the 2024 elections. Speaking to a Joy News reporter at the end of Dr. Baumia's speech, Dr. Obeng could not hide his excitement about what the vice president articulated in his speech about traders and importers. He said, "I'm overly excited. This is exactly what I wanted to hear, and I heard it. It means that they have been listening to whatever pleas that we have been doing," he said. "The communication that we do with you on TV and all that are being listened to. It's all about adopting compliance as a tool of revenue collection in his administration. So it goes on and on. Of course, he's focusing on business and what tax measures, e-levy, among others. But when I share my blunt thoughts shortly, right, I will explain to Ghanaians why maybe this may be another case of matrikil. We'll get there. But then, any thoughts? You wanted to say something?
Well, the special aide to John Mahama was saying that, unlike one thing that characterizes the New Patriotic Party is they have the boost promises that they do not, fulfill. Now, Bawumia is saying he wants to scrap e-levy. What stops him from doing that now? As a chair of the Economic Policy Committee and all he says he plays advisory role. What has he been telling the president and the finance minister all this while? So until he becomes a driver, right now he's just a maid. So until he becomes a driver, he can't help abolish the...
Yeah, what can you feel? Tobo, yeah, deba. What does
that mean?
When the pauper, if the pauper says he will give you outfits, cloth or clothes, listen to his name.
Okay.
The pauper.
Yes. Yeah.
Says he will give you,
Yeah. Anyway, so let's wait and see what most people are saying that Bawumia should go and come back. He doesn't seem like he's ready.
Former President Kufuor doesn't think that. He believes Vice President Bawumia should be the next to lead the country after President Akufo-Addo. And he sees him as a man on a mission who is determined by destiny, considering how he came into politics and his performance over the years. I'm going to ask you an interesting question.
Yeah.
If you could rate Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia 1 over 10, 8 years into office, 7+ years, how would you rate him? 1 to 10. Now I'm making you the guest.
I would rate him. You see, I feel like Bawumia has been non-existent. He's been an vice president. He's not been in. He's
been a what?
Vice president, electronic. He's only comes on our screens and when he needs to deliver a speech or something. He's not actively been on the forefront of anything, which makes it difficult. Like he's saying that he's only been a mate all this while. So I would rate him 3, between 3 and 4. Because if you're a vice president and you cannot help propel the nation to stability or growth or economic recovery, and you're waiting for us to give you, it's like saying that, they're saying that if Nyobenya kakra of a mouth, you know what I'm saying? If someone had the little I have, so the talent that God gave you, the position we've given you, what did you do with it? Now you're saying that we should give you the mandates to be the actual president before you can do something. I'm sorry, but he has to between 3 and 4 for me, and that's me being very generous.
And saying that also brings me back to the term kwatrekwa, which also implies nakedness, right? It reminds me of Benjamin Kwachi and his book, The Clothes of Nakedness. It's one that I prefer for. Have you read it?
No, The Clothes of Nakedness.
Yes. It just reminded me of that. Benjamin Kwachi, The Clothes of Nakedness. If you have the time, and if it's an African writer's book, Harvard-trained Ghanaian guy, The Clothes of Nakedness. It's a bit of a satire. It plays on, yes. Anyway, while you look for it, the Ghanaian Times disclosed funding sources. This is the only story I'll do in the Ghanaian Times newspaper as we get ready to wrap. And I have to do Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. It skips me at the start today.
Please tell me about Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic.
So, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition is advocating an amendment of the Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574, to include the disclosure of funding sources for presidential and parliamentary candidates. You know how we've heard, not just from the grapevine, but from individuals that tell you, I spent X million, I spent X million. We are not mentioning names, right? But the point is, where them get all that money from?
To quote Akufo-Addo, yetisikaso nso accommodating. Where the money
now I think we ought to rephrase that or reframe it. And yes, yetisikaso. Ebitisikaso.
Well.
And so accommodate binom.
Yes. Because it's not the disparity between the rich and the gap between the rich and the poor in this country. It's A.
But do you know what it takes to own a house in the AU village?
Tell me.
Charlie. But
some people
will never work before. All of a sudden, they go into governments, then they own houses with pools and things.
And even the boys that just follow these politicians, the houses they have. The money is yesterday, 2 days ago, when I was watching Bawumia's speech, I was asking myself, all those people they're hailing and cheering him on, are they happy? Are they genuinely happy in this country? I'm speaking as a young person. I don't think that I want to sit and be hailing and cheering on anyone in this country. Because
men from here and Kasekele will imagine this, please. Allow.
Charlie, anyway.
If you've not got the right kelewele, you say kelewele hard on this. But when you eat the right kelewele, then you realize that Charlie, the kele is willing.
When I grow up, I want to be as rich and comfortable as them. That's what I'm saying. Because it
through
seems
the right
like
means.
they're okay.
Through the right means. You know, when you work for money, where you chop up, it feels like you feel benze.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Charlie, but sometimes, you know, the sources of making money in this country are very limited. So a lot of people go the other way.
Ghanaians work hard, though. Benjamin. Yeah. The young people I know are doing 2-3 things at the same time. CEOs selling this, you know, providing services here and there. And we still struggle to make ends meet. We are not lazy people. So sometimes it's really disheartening to hear the figures that we hear that people pump into politics because they want to enter and loot more, not because they want to genuinely do anything for the country. Anyway, should we wrap this up?
And what kills me even more is underemployment. I keep saying, unemployment, you don't even have a job. Underemployment, you've studied architecture, accounting, maybe even Spanish and stuff. And you're an excellent student. The other day we had a caller who said, I think he had 3.72 in accounting and all of that. He's doing something completely different. Remote. You have that. It was an interaction. You actually went.
It's airing on Monday. Yes.
That is a crucial problem we are not addressing in this country. We focus on unemployment. Underemployment is a terrible thing because you've gone to spend your life learning how to be a nurse or something, and you don't have work, and now you have to resort to other things.
It's also
so we are
because
losing manpower.
The education system is not structured that industries or companies can absorb the talent, the numbers that they're churning
in other jurisdictions.
If you go and study accounting, how many accounting firms, how many companies actually need accountants?
In other jurisdictions, they plan and they know that this year we're going to need 30,000 engineers, 10,000 accountants. And so there is engagement with labor, with multinational corporations, with entities. So that as we produce, yes, you will still pick, but it will trickle down. By and large.
That's systems working.
Yeah.
That's structures in place to enhance.
That is digitization working.
That's right. 24/7. Hey, what did he say? 24 hours a day. 24 seems to be running through their campaigns, both the NDC and the MPP. I wonder where that actually started from. Is it from Mohammed's 24 economy or Baumia saying digitalization 24 hours a day?
I wouldn't know, but whatever it is, I'm just saying that Ghanaians, shine your eyes and whomever we decide for, whomever we decide for, fine. But let's not be hoodwinked into anything. That's all I'll say. I'll be coming your way in a bit with my blunt thoughts. I've titled it today, A Tsunami of Political Promises Cutting Surgically to the Truth. We're cutting to the bone to the marrow. And inside the marrow, what he has here, just to open your eyes to a few things. But any final words before we acknowledge Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic?
Just that I don't know how I feel about former President Akufo-Addo saying that you can't actually blame any political party or any government for corruption because, it comes with it. I wrote that down the moment I heard it.
Are you referring to Kufo?
Yes. He said,
he said,
one. You cannot fault
but you remember
government.
The infamous statement that, you remember back then, in the early 2000s, after he came to power. I mean, Kufo is someone I like, I respect.
We all revere him. He's
in recent times, some of the comments, though, especially on Baumia, I'm wondering what's
where's that coming from?
The level of honesty and the narrative is. But he said back then that corruption had been with us since the days of Adam.
Yes.
And I felt if you're trying to fight corruption, no one says you will have a society where it is 100% clean. No one is doing anything. Even in advanced societies, even in Japan, a place like Japan, if they catch you, like the consequences, the disgrace, look, there's some stigma. No one wants to go there. But still, people, you get it. So it's not about, it's not like 100%. But when you're trying to fight something, you don't go and such rhetoric only points to the fact that, anyway, I can say. So let's just, I teaching.
I didn't really experience his, government as an adult. But I remember, song J.A. Kufu, Organ and Cheboe Kufu. I don't know. Do you remember that song? Because people were talking about how he's made a country poor. He took us to HIPAC and all that. Even at that time, I don't think the monies that we owed, I don't think our national debt was up to 2 billion Ghana cedis. And now, we can't even pay our own debts. Charlie.
It is well. But I always say this will be my final point, that even as we talk about all this, I always say, young people, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi is coming. We talk about the National Sports Authority and everything. Who knows? Maybe he may be a sports administrator someday. I sit here, I'm talking. Who knows? I may be in some pole position someday. Let us not, as youth, like we've seen recently with that Nigerian minister, I think the youngest in the Nigerian cabinet, now also some 500,000 pounds and all of that. Let's not do all of this and then I'm not interested in politics. I've said it time without number. Okay. I'm not interested. I've had people, I'm not interested, okay? But should we be in some pole position, whether in politics or outside, let's remember these things and do better. I think that's the only way we can create a system like Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore, so that eventually what is now the exception, which is doing the right thing, becomes the norm. And vice versa. Anyway, before we get into sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment. If you're a man, they're offering you prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. In Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Kronomo, Abuehin behind the Angel Educational Complex. The Stakwade Energy State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiaman Zama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review.
See you on the flip side.
Sports up next. You want to stay for that.
Good morning. Let's do sports now on the AM show with me, Muftau Nabila Abla, and we are building up to the grand finale of the African Cup of Nations 2023. It's the host nation, Côte d'Ivoire, and they come up against Nigeria Super Eagles. That will be happening on Sunday. In the opening game of this competition, or the first round of matches that were played, Nigeria defeated Côte d'Ivoire by 1-0, courtesy of a penalty from defender and captain Truce Ekong. Well, the Ivorians say that they're not going all out there for the game on Sunday with a revenge in mind. They're just confident that they will be able to win it. Let's hear from Gian Siri, who's been speaking ahead of that final.
We are waiting for the final. We're going to make recovery, and after we think we can win this game.
We saw you walk down the tunnel after you were substituted. Were you angry?
No, it's not about hungry, because I was going into the change room to change everything. But I have confidence in my partner, and very happy, because today the most important is the victory.
You were nearly out of the competition. What did you personally do to help your teammates overturn this particular result that we had earlier in the tournament?
You know, every game was not easy. We play a lot of game difficult. Today we win. We are very happy. We're going to work because we have one more game, and I hope we're going to win.
Nigeria won against you in the group stage. How are you preparing for the game against Nigeria?
Now we need to wait, because we lose a lot of energy today, and we need to prepare the game easy with the head, and we hope we're going to win this game.
That was Seko Fofana speaking there to journalists in the mixed zone after their victory over DR Congo that secured a ticket in the grand finale of the competition. Let's hear from midfielder Gian Ferry. He says that this is a time for them to go all out there and win, but revenge is not something they've got at the back of their minds.
No, we don't go to talk about revenge. We're going to talk about final. We're going to talk about fight for what we have. This competition is in our own country, so we want to keep the trophy here. So we're going to work on what we have to work to make this game different than the game in a group.
So the last part, what sort of impact has he made? Yes, he was from start of the competition, but during the knockout stages, he's become a head coach, and we've seen some transformation. Just what sort of impact has he made for you guys?
No, he said things. He changed things who made a difference. So we can see since the game against Senegal, he make the right substitution, the right player, the right 11 starting. So he's a kind of coach who's going to grow up for sure.
Now let's take you through some numbers ahead of the final of the African Cup of Nations. It would interest you to know that no host country has been able to win the competition since 2006. So these are the numbers when it comes to countries that have reached the final of the competition the most. Egypt, they have been there 10 times, and Ghana 9, Nigeria 8, Cameroon 7, and Cote d'Ivoire 5. So Egypt have won it 7 times, Ghana 4, Nigeria 8, Cameroon. Nigeria have won it 3 times actually. Cameroon have won it 5 times, and Cote d'Ivoire, they've won it twice. So they are seeking to win it for the 3rd time in the history of the country. Let's go further for some more statistics ahead of the final of the African Cup of Nations, which is going to be happening. So Ivory Coast, they have reached the final of the competition 4 times since 2006. So 2006, they were in the final against Egypt and they lost via penalty shootout. And guess what happened in that final? Egypt and Cote d'Ivoire were in the same group. Egypt won the group stage game and won the final, which went through a penalty shootout. And in 2012, Cote d'Ivoire again were in the final. They came up against Zambia. They lost it again via penalty shootout. And in 2015, they were in the final against Ghana. They won it via penalty shootout. Now they're coming up against Nigeria. So some of the interesting statistics about this African Cup of Nations is that 6 times countries in the same group have made it to the final. And guess what? The team that usually wins the group stage game ends up winning the final when they meet in the final. Apart from 2013, when Nigeria and Burkina Faso played out a 1-all stalemate, and Nigeria won the final 1-0, courtesy of Sunday Mba's solitary strike. That secured Nigeria their 3rd AFCON title. So Nigeria is also seeking to win the competition for the 4th time. We move on and bring you another interesting statistic, and that says that no host country has been able to win the competition since 2006. So this is a performance of host countries since 2004. Tunisia hosted, they won. Egypt hosted, they won it. Ghana hosted and finished 3rd. This competition was won by Egypt. Angola hosted the competition, finished in the quarterfinal. Ghana knocked them out and lost the final to Egypt, courtesy of Mohamed Gidonagi's 85th minute strike. Gabon Equatorial Guinea, that tournament was in 2012, and they were all eliminated in the quarterfinal of that competition. Zambia and Cote d'Ivoire were in the final. Zambia won it. In 2013, South Africa hosted. They were knocked out in the quarterfinal of the competition, and it was Nigeria that won the competition, courtesy of Sunday Mba solitary strike. And in 2015, Equatorial Guinea, they hosted the competition. They were beaten in the semi-final by Ghana. They ended up finishing 4th. Ghana lost that final against Cote d'Ivoire. And in 2017, Gabon hosted the competition, exited at the group stage. Cameroon were champions after beating Ghana in the semi-final. In 2019, Egypt, they were the host nation of the competition. They were knocked out in the round of 16 by South Africa. And this tournament was won by Algeria. Algeria and Senegal were in the same group. Algeria won the group stage 1-0 and won the final 2-1-0. And AFCON 2021, Cameroon, they were the host of the competition. And it was Senegal and Egypt that made the final of that tournament. Senegal won it. It was the first time Senegal was winning the African Cup of Nations. And this time around 2023, the competition is hosted by Cote d'Ivoire. They have been able to surpass or surmount that hurdle of host nations not making it to the final of the competition since 2008. And would they be in a position to win it like Tunisia and Egypt did in 2004 and 2006 when the competition was hosted by them. Now, we move on and go to the Ghana Football Association, where its president, Kurt Okraku, he met the media early this week, and he says that they are preparing some major changes in the communications department of the Ghana Football Association because he feels there's some kind of deficiency when it comes to that department.
At level, we also have challenges, and the competitions department, working with the communications department, are working closely with our clubs in the GPL, the WPL, and the DOL to also open up a lot more to our media friends to access information. At the national level, we will enhance the work and the skill set that we have at the communications department. You will soon see some major changes.
Major changes in the communications department, and what are those major changes to be expected? They've been a plethora of reports surrounding some of the stuff that have been happening in the communications department, and some of these things we wait for the Ghana Football Association to make them official, or when we are able to lay our hands on something substantial about one of the key decisions they want to take. We'll be sharing that with you in our subsequent bulletins. But now let's hear from the flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He says if he's voted into office, one of the things he wants to do is to reposition Ghana sports. That will become the target of envy in the continent. He believes sports is a multi-billion industry, and the right structures must be put in place for Ghana to benefit from that industry.
Sports is a multi-million-dollar industry, an enabler for the youth. However, we have not realized our full sports potential, and we cannot maximize the full potential of Ghana sports with the same funding model we have operated since independence. My government will therefore prioritize the creation of incentives for corporate sponsorship as a sustainable module of financing sports development and promotion of our national teams, including football, athletics, boxing at all levels. This will take the financial pressure off government and also enable government to redirect more support to other sports disciplines. The government, as part of a broad sports development mission, will establish the Ghana Sports Secretariat, which will be an agency under the ministry, responsible for sports in collaboration with other such as the Ghana Education Service and sports federations. My government will also seek school-level collaboration with international sports bodies like the NBA and the NFL to make Ghana a hub for these emerging sports in Africa to create more opportunities for our young people. Ladies and gentlemen, we have already tried this with the NFL, the governing body for American football, which agreed to host in Ghana in 2022 the first which agreed to host in Ghana in 2022 the first ever NFL flag football in Africa after my engagement with them. This paved the way for 10 young Ghanaians to be selected to the United States to represent Africa in the global NFL tournament last year. Another set of young Ghanaians who were picked after the second NFL Africa football was also held in Ghana last year are currently in the United States to represent Africa.
That's your sports for now. We do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com. We appreciate your time.
This was the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Welcome back. Time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts for today. And I've titled this piece, A Tsunami of Political Promises, Cutting surgically to the truth. A tsunami of political promises cutting surgically to the truth. Let me start off, Ghana, by saying that one of the highest, most crucial metrics by which great leaders, or any leaders for that matter, are assessed is, you guessed it, honesty. If the dipstick of honesty were to be placed in the tanks of the many promises of our politicians today, our political elite, I wonder how many would remain on the campaign trail. All of them. Honesty is the best policy, it is said. But apparently, not for our misleaders in Ghana. It's a sine qua non, an essential, a without which not. But our misleaders then and now have had the penchant of promising heaven and delivering hell. They promise everything under God's sun and then perform a volte-face, a complete turnaround when they are in power. It's been promises galore from the leaders of our two major political parties, the NPP and the NDC, since last year when they were both elected. 2 days ago, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, flag bearer of the NPP, outlined his plan for the presidency and Ghana as a whole. He made a raft of promises too, only stopping short of promising a rocket launch to the moon. But I want us, even before we get into some of what he said over the years, which I'll play back to you before we get into especially tax and the economy, I want you to focus on this briefly. This bit about 15% VAT on electricity is still hanging around our necks, regardless of what Kojo Nkrumah may have said, regardless of all the other dynamics. Labour is still waiting for that formal communication to the effect that it's been scrapped. Because guess what? What we know now is that it's been suspended. Suspension is different from scrapping, taking away. So it's basically saying, the rhetoric is that we're going to engage Labour and then hopefully there's a buy-in. But look, while the Finance Ministry has informed ECG and NEDCO to suspend the implementation of VAT on electricity pending further engagement with key stakeholders, including organized labor, guess what? Next slide. When you go to the next slide, you would find out that organized labor has said on this 15% VAT, it's either a complete removal or else they will what? Strike. Industrial action. There's no in between. It's either or. That's it. I just wanted to lay that premise as I even get to other aspects of our economy. But before we get to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and some of what he said recently and what I think, okay, I want you to listen to this bit we've put together before and after Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. This is what he said. This is what he had to say. Let's listen to him.
We don't have to borrow money from anywhere. Just tool the various sections of the road and we'll raise the money to do the roads in Ghana.
The MPP will shift the focus of economic policy away from taxation to production. So we are going to move away from taxation to production. From taxation to production.
Given the resources at its disposal, one should expect at least 4 to 5 times the quantum of investment that the NDC claims to have undertaken. The close to 33 billion of borrowing that has not been used for infrastructure expenditure could have done so much in this country. If you take $33 billion and ask yourself, what could you have done with $33 billion? You could have solved the water crisis in Ghana. You could have solved our energy problems. Every region in Ghana would have had 1,000 kilometers of asphalt road. We could have transformed agriculture. We could have put in place a world-class hospital in every region. We could have bought 1,000 ambulances for the Ghana Ambulance Service. We could have equipped our existing health and education institutions. And we could have built an additional 600 senior high schools that the government is trying to build currently. and we could have constructed the Accra-Kumasi-Paga railway line as well as the Western Railway line. And with all this, we would have still been left with some money.
Has the government achieved single-digit inflation?
Well, that is for everybody else to judge. My point.
Do you doubt that they have achieved single-digit?
My point is that the single-digit inflation that we are seeing is not consistent, in my opinion, humble opinion, that it's not consistent with developments that we are seeing in the cost of living. You know, I mean, the single-digit inflation is supposed to be driven by food prices. So, you know, ask every, you know, woman, man who goes to the markets and ask about food prices between last year and this year and see how food prices have been increasing. My visits to the markets, whether it's in Malatar or Tamale or wherever, suggest that food prices are really going up. That is clear. I mean, in Bolga Market, for example, as I pointed out in my lecture, maize, a staple, maize, you know, where we eat tuzafi every day from maize, went up by 60% within just the last year. More than 100% in Accra. I mean, you know, so the point is that when you look at the cost of living, you know, the benefits of a single-digit inflation rate doesn't seem reflected in the cost of living.
All of these are hurting. They are hurting the economy. These taxes are hurting, and therefore you are not going to get the growth. And when you don't get the growth, you will not get the revenue. And when you don't get the revenue, you go back to increasing taxes to get the revenue, and then you are in a cyclical downward spiral. And so they have it wrong, and we will change that particular policy. We will use the tax incentives to grow this. Propaganda you want. But if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that I stated in 2014 that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. That was true then, and it is true now. It is 100% correct. So if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose. But it is warped logic to jump from that to a conclusion that if there is depreciation in your currency, then the fundamentals must be weak. Do you understand the logic? It is very warped logic. If the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. But if the exchange rate moves, you cannot jump to that conclusion that the fundamentals are weak. That defies logic.
Maybe you're smiling as I am. Dr. Bawumia then, when he was running mate, Dr. Bawumia now as vice president. Do you see the difference? And that, Ghana, is what I'm talking about. Does that sound to you when you listen to him like someone who was not and is not in charge? Today, he says he's only the driver's mate. Aplanke, you read between the lines, you decide. Now, I just want to focus on something here, because in terms of our deal with the IMF and the regulations, stipulations, we're given options. Cuts expenditure by 0.2% or impose taxes like the VAT, 15% that we are talking about. Our government opted to cut us instead of cutting themselves. That's what they opted for, to cut us. Instead of cutting themselves, instead of cutting down on expenditure, so that at least the Ghanaian can breathe a bit. Look at the number of V8s. Look at presidential staffers. Look at what we spent on our number of ministers and all of that. But foregoing all of that, the government, in terms of this IMF arrangement, hoped to rake in about 9.5 billion Ghana cedis of revenue under 12 revenue measures in this program. Let's go to the next slide. And of course, this year was the focus. I'll just walk you through them briefly. The revenue measures: revise and expand taxes on gambling revenue. We've seen some of that, the 10% among others, 512.4 million. Expand the entities subject to communication service tax, same amount. Increase stamp duty, same amount. Introduce a simplified mechanism for the modified taxation scheme for small taxpayers, 427 million Ghana cedis. Let's go to the next four. Then you have remove selected VAT exemptions, 4.4 billion Ghana cedis. Introduce a 5% VAT rate on rental of commercial premises, 854 million Ghana cedis. Introduce a Commissioner General's authorized VAT invoice for income tax purposes. That would bring in another 512.4 million Ghana cedis. And introduce an emissions tax and a plastic and packaging tax. We've already seen the eco tax slapping, 597.8 million. Then the final batch of 4. Let's go. Revenue measures. Implement a second phase of EVAT. Pay attention. Implement a second phase of EVAT and ongoing EVAT compliance measures, 341.6 million. Implement a minimum chargeable income system, 170.8 million. Enhance the implementation of the vehicle income tax, that's the VIT, that the sticker mechanism, 85.4 million. And implement the World Customs Organization's Safe Framework of Standards, Pillar 1, which was expected to generate 427 million. But as you've paid attention to all of this, I want you to focus on this. Then, Dr. Bawumia proposes to us 2 days ago that he's going to cut off some of the main taxes that we have. And the question is, how then are we going to fit that into the IMF program? If indeed he means to keep his promise, how will it be executed? Stay with me. So, Akufo-Addo, revision and expansion of taxes on gambling revenue. Bawumia says there will be no taxes on betting. Removal of selected VAT exemptions, including 15% VAT on electricity. He says no VAT on electricity if still on the books by 2025, under his watch, his own administration. Now he says, as a proposal, he'll take it off. We know more. Introduction of the emissions tax and the plastic and packaging tax. He says there'll be no emissions tax. Next slide. So his new taxes, he says there will be no tax on betting. How much are we losing there? How much would we have raked in revenue in respect of the IMF program? 512.4 million Ghana cedis. No VAT on electricity, if still on the books by 2025. 4.4 billion and other selected VAT exemption inclusive, 4.4 billion. No emissions tax. It was seen to generate or projected to generate 597.8 million. The total there in Ghana cedis, 5.51 billion. My question, Ghana 4, these are the things we often don't assess. How will a Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia administration raise this sum of money for the IMF program? How will they do it? These are the fine prints we must read between the lines and tell when people are being honest or otherwise. Before securing power with President Akufo-Addo, and Bawumia had supported President Akufo-Addo for 2 attempts at the presidency and campaigned vigorously. In fact, the reason his boss hired him was because he was an expert in economics. But today, we know that where the country is. Now that we are where we are, he says he was only at a planke who was waiting patiently for his boss, the main driver, to put the vehicle in a ditch so that he can go and tell the car owner that he is a better driver. So Dr. Bawumia knew that we could do with 50 ministers for governance. He knew the e-levy and other taxes were bad and would hurt the economy. Yet, as head of the economic management team, he brought it to bear. He knew that being head of the EMT means that you are only an advisory body. You only play that role. And he was haranguing the late Emisa Arthur. I suppose the economic wizard needs some new abracadabra to get things going, because the magic may have fluttered or floated away. But before I go, I want to remind us again of something in the past and now, and to conclude, to leave you to decide. Our final slide. This is Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, September the 8th, 2016. Quote, he said, "A mason who inherits a good foundation and spends 8 years destroying it cannot be trusted to build the house." I'll repeat for you. A mason who inherits a good foundation and spends 8 years destroying it cannot be trusted to build the house. He was referring to inheriting the Kufuor economy and maybe even Atta Mills and Mahama. But we cannot trust the mason who inherited a good foundation, as Dr. Baumia says. But we can trust the trotro mate who inherits a car that has had multiple accidents, which also has a rundown engine and needs practically all its other parts to be replaced, right? That's the logic. A trotro mate who has not proven himself to be a mechanic, an electrician, a bodyworks expert or sprayer, or even a good driver for that matter. It's laughable. But these are the same things that will percolate in our system in an electoral year. Me? What's my opinion? I think you know that. But I lay the bare bones of the facts to you, so you can decide for Mother Ghana. Because our future hinges on the decisions we make today, here, and now. I share these thoughts with you because I'm passionate about Ghana, our brand, the red, gold, green, and black. My name is Benjamin Akapo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, hot, raw, and edited, undiluted. As always, I pray that God will bless Ghana and make her great and strong.
So far, the Bank of Ghana has made a lot of progress in this direction by putting in place a lot of the systems and infrastructure required. These include mobile money interoperability, merchant interoperability, the universal QR code system, GH-Link, debit cards, eSwitch, and Ghana Pay. We have put in place the necessary infrastructure for Ghana to go cashless. Recently, the Bank of Ghana has completed a pilot of a digital version of the Ghana cedi in Seshwiwioso. This is known as the Central Bank Digital Currency, or the e-cedi. The e-cedi is designed to work online and offline and will be launched by the Bank of Ghana in due course. In my humble opinion, the e-cedi, with appropriate privacy protections, will be the ultimate weapon in our fight against corruption, because it will provide transparency, reduce the risk of fraud, robbery, tax avoidance, and money laundering, since it will be easy to track the movement of money and identify suspicious activity. The e-cedi will quicken the pace of Ghana's move towards a cashless or near cashless society. Ladies and gentlemen, to move towards a cashless economy, however, we have to encourage the population to use electronic channels of payment. To accomplish this, under my administration, there will be no taxes on digital payments. The e-levy will therefore be abolished.
So let's get into it. It's a Friday, and of course, on the back of the plan of execution as laid forth by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President, flag bearer of the MPP. We're cutting incisively into it with the experts. I've shared with you my blunt thoughts, but what do our academics and others, those in industry, think? Dr. Eric Boakye-Adom is Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the University for Professional Studies, Accra. We also have Dr. Christopher Ampedu. He's a political analyst. Both of them join the conversation. Let me first say a good morning to Dr. Ampedu, who is joining us virtually. Dr. Ampedu, a very good morning to you. Can you hear me, Doc?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. We also have Dr. Boakye-Adom in the studio. He is Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Accounting and Finance, UPSA. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sometimes you join us virtually, sometimes you come into the studio.
Yes.
We're grateful. Since you are in the studio, you have every opportunity. Let me go first to Dr. Ampedu to find out what was your fundamental appreciation of this plan of execution as laid bare by the Vice President. How captivating was it for you? Did you get what you were expecting, Doc? Dr. Ampedu, that's for you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. and I appreciate the opportunity. It was just wonderful. In fact, some of us have been waiting for the Vice President, since he was elected as the flag bearer, to come out with his policies, opinions, and what he intends to do when given the mandate. I was so excited that he really came out to put across all his intentions and what his policies would be and what he would want to achieve when given the opportunity to be the president of the nation. I seriously appreciate all that he said, and I believe that he means so well for the nation. He, as a person, I think he means so well for the nation, and for all that he has said, he will be able to do. But then, you know, it's one thing talking about it, and it's one thing executing it when you are in power, especially when you cannot do everything and you have to delegate and assign duties to people to work on your behalf. So these are very powerful things he has said, and I think he intends so well for the nation. But I still think I have a lot of doubts, saying politicians, you have known them over the years, they will say things so beautiful like this. And yet when it comes to power, it's another thing altogether. So for now, that's what I can say, that all the outline of policies, his intentions, and all of that, they are just wonderful. And this is what these are the things the nation needs to move forward in terms of progress, in terms of development. But then, as a social scientist, you are working with people, the people. That is, for me, my fear that he intends so well, but he's not going to work alone. The people who are pushing him on, the people who have surrounded him, are people who have tasted power, are people who have worked with this system for some time. We know them. And so, if he intends so well, are these people going to help him to achieve what he has outlined for the nation? We just have to pray for him. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ampadu, for your initial remarks. Dr. Boakye Adam, were you as excited as Dr. Ampadu, having listened to everything the Vice President had to say?
Thank you for the opportunity once again. And I should say that it is a challenging moment, for our country, and especially for the Vice President to be able to state your position whilst you're in government, which in a way depart from what the current administration is doing. But if we listen to him carefully, it tells us that the Vice President wants to chart a new course. We've had a couple of discussions about this administration in previous year and even at the start of the year, and I've stated my position clear, especially in terms of certain taxes that the government has introduced. But to hear the Vice President telling us that this is how we are doing things currently, but this is the way that I want to go, it shows that the Vice President is bold enough to tell us his position in spite of all the things that is going on. And one thing that resonates with me is the fact that he talked about digitalization. You see, if we look at the Ghanaian economy, it has been built on the premises of what I call the brick and mortar economy. What it means is that every little shock will have a great impact on the Ghanaian economy. So for the Vice President to be able to come out with a policy or with his vision that this is where he wants to go by changing the structure of the Ghanaian economy, I think I will recommend him, or I will commend him for that bold stance. And I think it is clear if you look at his, one of the things that he talked about is he's making bold decisions for the future. Mm-hmm. And I think leadership is about being bold and stating your position. And the Vice President has been criticized, over the years. But to be able to come out and tell us exactly what you are going to do, you see, we'll go into it whether he will be able to do the things that he promised or he stated in his speech. But taking the speech on the face value and the things that he intends to do, I think that he has a vision for the country and that he wants to redefine the foundation and the structure of the Ghanaian economy.
I like the fact that you talk about on face value. The legal students will say prima facie. On face value, it appears fantastic. But I'd like to quickly get this point out of the way, especially with Dr. Ampadu and you. I'd like to start with you. He says, as vice president, I was a driver's mate, but if you vote for me, I will take the driver's seat. Which brings to mind then, how relevant is the role of a vice president? Throughout this Fourth Republic, we've said they have been in charge of the economic management team, whether they were economists or not. Thankfully now we have an economist who has been at the helm of affairs. In many ways, he's now tried to detach himself from what decisions may have come to bear. I've heard people talk about the fact that, but being head of the economic management team did not necessarily mean that he was running the economy. There's a finance minister. There's a case to be had there. But at the same time, we've also been told on several occasions, he's the one in whom God has reposed all the economic knowledge and everything in between. So you ask yourself, what then really is the relevance of the vice presidency in this instance? What would be your response to that?
Great. So as the head of the economic management, we are supposed to advise. And you and I know that advice is not an imposition. That you can advise somebody, but it's up to the person whether to take or not to take. But we cannot say that the vice president, from his speech that I listened to, is detaching himself from the present administration. But one of the things that he mentioned was that as the finance minister focused on the budget and the BOG focused on monetary policy, he was tasked to ensure the fundamentals of the economy is reshaped through digitalization. So in a way, unless we hear from the president to come and tell us that is not the work I gave him, and he is responsible for all the economic challenges.
Do you honestly expect that?
Sorry?
Do you honestly expect that?
Yeah, so we won't get there. For example, if we run an institution where there is a head, the head will obviously tell you that in spite of the many work that you are assigned to do, this is the one I want you to focus on. And I don't think that the vice president should go beyond or to deviate from the task that he has been assigned to do. If in the interest of the president, he thinks that looking at his economic acumen and the way he does things, he will be a perfect fit in my digitalization agenda. So let me place him there whilst he tried to also support the economic decisions. So he clearly specified that it is true that I am part of the economic management team and I'm the head of it. However, the advices that we have has been given, it is the president's prerogative right whether to take the advices or go the other way.
But if someone is the repository of all knowledge, like we're made to believe, the economic whiz kid, would you take his advice or not?
Well,
especially when the president himself had said on the campaign trail that he had handpicked his vice based on the economy and that he was the one in whom he was well pleased, so to speak, to come and handle it. Dr. Bawumia himself had touted that, in the economy and when things were rosy, that, they had done this and they had done that. So focusing on that, the metrics, economic management team, because those were the same metrics he held the likes of former Vice President Emisa Arthur to. How would you assess Dr. Bawumia in terms of heading the economic management team and where we find ourselves by way of the IMF, by way of our debt, by way of what we now have to go through now, even the threat of a 15% addition on VAT? I went somewhere yesterday and looked at my tax bill. I was surprised. The currency exchange and everything. How would you assess that?
Well, so we will look at this administration in two parts. We'll look at it from 2017 to 2020. Then we'll look from 2020 and where we stand now. If we look at the indicators, everything was pointing to the right direction. Now 2020 comes in. We have COVID. Then everything seems to take a nosedive. We can't say that we will not put all the blame on the COVID-19 or whatever Ukraine or whatever war it happened. But you see, countries respond to shocks differently. And how Ghana will respond to the shock of COVID-19 will not be the same way Benin or our neighboring countries will do, depending on your level of dependency. For example, over the years, our international reserve, that is our import cover, is about 3 months or 2.5 months over the years. And you shut down an economy, through COVID-19 for months. What it means is that literally you will not have certain domestic revenue to be able to keep the country going, So it is true that this government has overly relied on COVID-19, but we can't run away from the fact that the impact affected the country because we have not built that fundamentals for the economy to stand the test of time.
So are you saying inadvertently that the fundamentals are weak?
The fundamentals, and the president, the vice president has said even before he came to power that if the fundamentals are weak, the currency and the exchange rate will expose.
But you remember what he said after he was in power and the exchange rate? He said no, but it doesn't mean, he said it was warped logic. I played that this morning. If you suggest that just because the currency is whatever, flip-flopping, the fundamentals are weak. He went back on his own word.
So let me come in. Let me come in on that. You see, the fundamentals are weak in that we have not set the economy to be able to be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient, and I mentioned about the import cover. And this economy is import-driven. So what the fundamentals that I see the vice president doing by transforming the economy to become more digitalized, it will be robust in the fourth industrial era. So we can't run away from the fact that the fundamentals of Ghanaian economy since independence has been weak,
I see.
If we don't do anything differently from it, if any shock comes, it will be worse than what we experience. So it is true that although the president have touted him to be economic risk kid and all that, but the economic fundamentals of the country cannot be changed overnight, and it takes a systematic step. And it should be a continuous government, like what is being done now, especially in terms of registration, NIA cards and all that. It should have been done, I think, about since 2000 when for came.
And indeed, this whole drive about national identification started way back. If we're talking about it. But let me just, a quick one. Yeah. I don't know, because if you follow the Singaporean example, the Asian tigers, East Asian tigers, among others, and you look at their trajectory, there were clear signs of development and progress, whether you want to look at Malaysia, whether you want to look at whichever other one of these countries, right? In, let's say, close to 10 years. Now, this administration has had 8 years, and you can say same for the NDC, right? 8 years, almost 8 years. Wouldn't you see the writing on the wall? How long would it take before you started to see the real signs of palpable development? And here we are again in an electoral year, and we're getting another shuttle of promises coming through after 8 years. So we have a vicious cycle of 8 years with practically nothing done, and they now tell you, oh, now we are going to do this. 8 years, not enough?
Well,
to at least show signs, not enough?
Yes, 8 years is quite a time in the life of a country to show symptoms of growth. And if I, like I mentioned earlier, in 2017, if you take in the 2023 budget, they gave a trajectory of the various sectors of the economy in the direction they were pointing to. And you could see that almost the indicators were going right until 2020. You see, when you are studying economic trends and there's a sudden dip, you have to ask yourself, what happened? There's a certain dip or there's a certain upshoot of the trend. You should be able to interrogate yourself. So you could see that we mixed the target from 2020, 2021. But when we had our last discussion, I think at the beginning of this year, you could see that the indicators are beginning to pick up. Pick up means that we are almost overcoming the challenges that we found ourselves in the 2020, 2021, because of the COVID-19. So with the 8 years, if we had a smooth run, and that is not to hold a brief that you shouldn't build an economy which cannot withstand shock, because you can't predict the future. So if we take the 8-year cycle, we could see that there's a dip, but gradually we are getting the things right. But my only worry is the fact that should we have IMF around for that long for us to begin to get some of these indicators correct? I mean, so I see that the fundamentals are being reset for a country to take off, you know. But then, if you ask me about the promises, then we have to look at how realistic are these promises, and that will be a different conversation.
All right, and we'll quickly get to that. Let me get to Dr. Ampadu now. So going back to the same point, the role of a vice president, and we're analyzing it because it appears from time to time we get there and we make it, from way back the days of Vice President Aka, who infamously, supposedly was assaulted and everything in between. But it appears to a large extent there's been some downplaying of the role of a vice president, even to the former vice president under the MPP. His name just, Aliu Mahama, right? And all of that to Emisa, I mean, even before that, Atta Mills, Aliu Mahama, Emisa Arthur, and all the others. How relevant from the political standpoint is it? We have, in our constitution, pegged it that the vice president will be head of the economic management team, which John Mahama was when he was vice president, which Dr. Bawumia has been as vice president. How relevant is the role of VEP, and how relevant is that role per the dynamic of economic management? What's your take, Dr. Ampadu?
Thank you, Ben. I think when even Mahama was campaigning to be president, he said almost the same thing that Bawumia is saying, that being a vice president is just be like a figurehead. You assist, you support the president. You are not someone who does the real work in terms of taking the major decisions to move forward. So yes, we can go back to the constitution and look critically at the role that the vice president is to play. But then you should understand that that role plays a second fiddle to the president. And in our context, we have presidents who are surrounded by very powerful people. Sometimes they even appear to be more powerful than even the president. And so, if you're a vice president in this situation, yes, you are the head of the economic management team, as the Constitution says. Yes, when you meet, you bring out all your thoughts, the ideas, things that can transform the economy and the nation for that matter. But then, the implementation has to do with the president and his close, sometimes not even cabinet, close associates. And that's where the problem is. So, look at your question. The presidency and the role of the vice president in our context, I think, is just like a figurehead. You are there. If the president is out of the country, then you are recognized. Then you can even represent him. But then even that representation sometimes is not effective because he has assigned the very decisions he has taken as a management team leader, the very decisions he has taken, or the very things that we have discussed. Now, we have very powerful, what you call finance minister, and then we have advisors, very powerful advisors, presidential advisors on economy, on finance, and all of that. So yes, you are a vice president, but then here you are. You are just like a figurehead. So sometimes I appreciate it is not Bawumia alone who is saying this.
So when he says,
I've said it over and over, and I think that is what you're experiencing in our country.
Doc, quick one. So the figurehead bit that you use almost sounds like a ceremonial position like we would have in the British monarchy, where, yes, the king or the queen would have to assent to certain things, but basically it's a ceremonial role you play. Is that what you're insinuating? And does that feed into the driver's mate and assistant headmaster rhetoric? Is it apt?
Well, in the Constitution, it does not appear as a figurehead or a ceremonial head. You are supposed to be very active and effective in what you are doing. But we have to come to That's what I should see. Does it work in our situation? What what Bono is saying, these are serious political, economic, and social thoughts he's bringing across. And the way he's talking, and the way some of us know him, if he has the chance, the opportunity to implement them, I think it could have been far better than what you are saying. But you are completely handicapped. All that he said concerning the fundamentals, all that he said concerning the currency, all that he said concerning the inflation, all these things have not come to play. Why? Because, yes, he is part of the government. But then, I think he didn't have the chance, the opportunity to really work effectively to make sure that what he said as an economy will come to play in the Bank of Ghana, in the economy of the nation, and all of that. So sometimes vice presidents can be excused for that. And that's why I'm saying that, sometimes it's good to give an opportunity. But you have seen it from Mahama. Whether he was able to do it, now that's another thing to talk about later. Whether Bono will be able to do it, because I'm not questioning, we can discuss later. But for me, I have a lot of doubts that yes, he has the ideas, he has the heart to do it, but to bring it to reality in the political dispensation we find ourselves is another thing altogether.
All right, so the ideas may be there, but execution is where the devil is. It has always been where the devil is. It's not about the rhetoric, the talk. And it's not about trying, because we've been told time without number, try us, try me. And the results have been what we've seen. But I want us to take apart, I want us to start first with taxes and other components, even before we get into making national service no longer obligatory or mandatory, even before we talk about allowing for contracts to receive public scrutiny and all of that. Those are things that are convoluted in their own right. Let's talk about money, taxes, under an IMF program. I just shared in my blunt thoughts. So the 12 tax handles, revenue measures, that government was going to use to rake in about 9.5 billion Ghana cedis under the IMF program. We're looking at revising and expanding taxes on gambling revenue, which would yield 512.4 million Ghana cedis. Expanding the entities subject to communications service tax, another 512.4 million Ghana cedis. Increasing stamp duties, another 512.4 million Ghana cedis. Introducing a simplified mechanism for the modified taxation scheme for small taxpayers, 427 million Ghana cedis. I want to walk us through all of them. So now the fifth, removing selected VAT exemptions, 4.4 billion Ghana cedis. Introducing a 5% VAT rate on rental of commercial premises, 854 million Ghana cedis. Introducing a Commissioner General's authorized VAT invoice for income tax purposes, expected to yield another 512.4 million Ghana cedis. Introducing an emissions tax, which we now have, and a plastic and packaging tax, 597.8 million Ghana cedis. The final batch, implementing a second phase of EVAT and ongoing EVAT compliance measures combined, 341.6 million. Implementing a minimum chargeable income system, 170.8 million. Enhancing the implementation of the vehicle income tax, that is the VIT, sticker premium or mechanism, 85.4 million Ghana cedis. Implementing the World Customs Organization Safe Framework of Standards, Pillar 1, 427 million Ghana cedis. Now, you look at Dr. Bawumia and he's saying that he will take away the betting tax, the 10% and the other things in there. There will be no VAT on electricity if it is still on the books by 2025. He will take away the emissions tax. If you add those components, and I know you are no financial analyst, but I'll throw them to you first and find out what you think before I come into the studio. It means that when you take away the betting tax, 512.4 million Ghana cedis is gone. If you take away the VAT on electricity, if it's still on our books, 4.4 billion Ghana cedis is also gone, together with other selected VAT exemptions inclusive. And then if you take away the emissions tax, another 597.8 million Ghana cedis is gone. At the total, you have 5.51 billion Ghana cedis. The question is, when the vice president takes away these, especially with our history of robbing Peter to pay Paul, we take away from the left and we add from the right. How is he going to make this money? And do you believe that these tax reforms will actually take place? Dr. Ampadu.
Thank you. As you rightly said, I'm not a financial analyst, but then, where does this tax proposal, where does it come from? From the IMF. Now, look at the money that they are taking from the IMF. The IMF policies are going to take not 1 year, more than a year or two. Now, as far as we take their money, there's no way you can remove the taxes and still get their money. It means that, you may talk like this the way you are saying it, but then the IMF has put in some injunctions for you to get the money. For me to continue to support you, these are the taxes that your people have to pay. And we do know that these taxes are taxes that the ordinary man cannot. We cannot, like how workers are rising up and people are really talking about it. That is why the vice president said when he's giving the mandate, he will remove it. Now, it is going to be just easy to remove as we continue to depend on IMF. For me, that's a big question you have to answer. So it is easy political talk to say that when I come, I will take this off and remove these taxes and look at the quantum of money that will be lost if you remove it. But it is a condition for you to get support from IMF. And so if you are capable of growing the economy such that you have enough money to replace this component of taxes, then you're okay. But we don't know where the economy is now. It's a downshed that cannot stop itself. Where do you get this money? And so when you're talking about removing the taxes, then you have to create avenues to make sure that the economy grows and gets money to support the other areas where these taxes will support. And the big question we here will ask you, how are you going to do it, or where are you going to get that business from? So for me, I think these are some of the same positions we talk about, because they know currently taxes Ghanaians have risen against taxation. So as far as people say we are not ready, opposition party says we are not ready to support any tax, and everyone says we are not ready, then for you to get your vote, when I come, I'll remove that and I'll remove that, and it is said that man, because the taxes are not just being levied on people, it's a condition that you need to implement if you are to get IMF money. And IMF money drags on through 2024 to 2025, when maybe if you come, you'll be in power and you'll be enjoying that money. So how do you enjoy that and still remove these taxes? These are questions I think we should be asking.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on those. Let me come to Doc in the studio. We have guidelines from the IMF, and to all intents and purposes, I have already shared what I have, deduced from the 0.2% we were supposed to raise of our revenue per the IMF. We decided to slap it on the people with a VAT. Now, it is clear that to meet the IMF regulations, and there's been talk from the IMF recently cautioning Ghana that, listen, you have to go down a certain road to meet our regulations so you can keep on getting funding and all of that. So how then, with all these stipulations, are we going to raise those sums of money if the vice president takes away the taxes?
Thank you. Before I answer your question, I want to quickly say that the role of the vice president, as in the head of the economic management team, I've been struggling to find out whether it is really in the constitution, and I'll be very happy to have it. I see that it's tradition that has created it, that we try to put the vice president to be the head of the economic management team. So I think we have to recheck and find out. But I'll be happy to see the constitutional provision that put the vice president as the one who is solely responsible.
I don't believe it's necessarily
so that is the
stipulated in the Constitution, but it's been throughout the Fourth Republic.
Exactly.
It's been one of those norms that we've had.
That's what
and we've stuck to it and touted it.
Yes, so if we have stuck to it, and this president says, or from the speech we heard, says that we should, I want you to concentrate on digitalization. I mean, I think it is clear that the role that has been assigned to the president. But having said that, let me go on to
But I think before you also go on, we must stipulate, just to clarify, because especially in the Fourth Republic, the economy has been crucial to any conversation from the early 90s till now, because we've had IMF programs back to back. You cannot also take away from the fact that the same vice president who was running mate and before he came was put forward to Ghanaians as the one who worked on the economy. The president specifically said that he brought him in because of that. The economy.
Yes.
So I guess that is where Ghanaians will come in and assess him. That's the point. But go ahead.
So when you come to the IMF program, you see, anytime you go for an IMF program, there's something you call a debt covenant. There's a restrictive clause that tries to bind the creditor from undertaking certain activities. And the interest of the IMF is whether you'll be able to rake in enough revenue to be able to offload your debts, to make you a bit sustainable. So the focus of IMF is your ability to bring in revenue. So the choice as to where you want to rake the revenue is left to you. So if you see that charging more taxes is a way of getting revenue, to be able to make you self-sufficient, then you have taken that line, and IMF will also make proposals based on the structure of your economy. You see, in terms of taxes, there are two ways we can look at it. You can either go vertical or horizontal. Vertical means that continuously increase the tax of the existing tax people. Like you mentioned that you go and buy just small rice from a restaurant, and the receipt given is so long as if it's an exam script. So it means that we have gone the way of vertical. But if we look at the speech delivered, the vice president had the intention of broadening the base. And it almost appeared that we've talked about the NIA for so long, and the fact that a lot of the issuing of cards, and he mentioned that they have issued about 17 million cards. You see, you can't tax people you cannot find. You can only tax people you can identify. So the NIA cards is a way of broadening the tax base. I listened to one gentleman who wants to run for president, and they were questioning him about the young man, Kwame Bediako. They were questioning him about the source of funding. And he gave a very crucial answer that in elsewhere, nobody will question him about his source of income because the system has been built to track his source of income. We don't have that structure, so it becomes difficult in taxing people. So we talk about government should broaden the tax base. Government should broaden the tax base. How can that be done when the people cannot be identified? So by will
But whose work is it to identify the people?
Exactly. And that is the role of the government. And taking the initiative to broaden identification of people is a starting point of broadening the tax base. So from the speech and my understanding of what was read by the vice president, the intention is to broaden the tax base so that we don't go vertical, but rather we go horizontal. And in the end, if all this 5.51 billion is even not coming from those three taxes that we initially alluded to or wanted to rake in money, when you go horizontal, you're able to raise the money and meet the same purpose. So I don't think it's much of a concern in abolishing those taxes. And if you remember, I've been very critical about these taxes. And I've said time and again in your studios that if you promise us as a vice president that you move us from taxation to production, and now we are paying more taxes than what you told us, then it means that you probably lied to us. So I am very confident in his approach in coming forward to tell us that this is the way I want to take the country by abolishing this tax, so that my word that I gave you some years ago will be fulfilled, that I'll be able to move this country from taxation to production.
So he said he would move us from taxation to production. That has not been achieved. We have more taxes now than we had then. But you believe that he'll be able to take off these taxes. Then my question to you, how do we claw back the revenue, the 5.9 billion? How do we get it back? Because this fairy tale of broadening the tax base, how long have we spoken about that? For about 2 decades plus, right?
Yeah.
So is the vice president going to wave a magic wand and make it happen all of a sudden when we know the cobblestones and the hobbling of the GRA and every other problem it faces? So you say we should move from vertical and go horizontal.
Yeah.
Going horizontal is not just by word of mouth. It is by action. Have we put in place the right measures to execute this horizontality or horizontalness within the shortest possible time? That's a question I'll put to you.
So we have always had a short-term measure, and as a country, I think because of our political cycle, it tends to make government focus on short-term measure. But going horizontal means that the government should put structures. And I've said time and again that we've not had a time that about 17 million Ghanaians can be identified. We've not had a time that properties could be easily identified.
You're talking of property rates and the rest.
Yes, yes, that properties have been registered, and they've been captured, Now, the question is, when are we going to realize, as you're asking, that how long is it going to take us to realize? It is in that case we will need somebody who can implement the structures that have been put in place. I mean, you can put
the vice president has been, if for nothing at all, he's been vice president for 7 years now. He knew this. He's always known this. In fact, it's not new. It's something that has been in the system. It's not been implemented, but somehow now it will be implemented.
Yeah, but you started by saying that there's a driver's mate and there's a driver. So obviously,
no, he says that I never knew the vice president could be. I never knew there was a driver's mate, but he says there's a driver's mate. So do you get my logic?
I get your logic, and we should all be concerned about it. But how soon are we going to rake in the needed revenue? But for now, we can say that we have not been able to implement. But the logic of it is that if a lot of people can be identified, and you can find it from anywhere, especially advanced countries that have a very high tax compliance rate like Estonia, it starts from identification. If the people can be identified, their incomes can be identified, and they are on a certain financial stream or a certain, they can be captured in the financial system, then you can be able to identify them and tax them. But as to when, how soon will it be, it is a matter of implementation. So probably we have to give him a chance to be able to let us know whether now you're in the driver's seat. So let's see the things that you said, whether you're able to achieve it or not.
We ought to try him to find out whether he can
whether he will be able to
execute. And so you've still not given me a clear roadmap. Is it this horizontal pattern that will earn us the 5.9 billion? How do we rake in the 5.9 billion we are writing off to meet IMF agreements? I want a concrete answer on that.
Okay, so I have said,
and I'll be coming to you, Dr. Mpedu, shortly. I just wanted to clear this point.
Now, the 5.5 million that we will be losing, we've not lost it yet. How do we get in?
You're looking at 5.9 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes, that we are losing. You see, the same way we implemented the what do we call it? The electronic transaction taxes, and it didn't rake in the revenue. That it needs to be cut down to find out if we can rope in more people. It's the same way that I'm saying that if we decide to go horizontal, I mean, are we going to equip the GRA enough?
And let me just clarify so our viewers, maybe they can understand. If you're going vertical, you're focusing on the same pool of people, the same category. But if you're going horizontal, you are broadening the tax base, bringing in that woman who sells here at Makola, the person who does his private thing and doesn't even feed into the tax system. That's what you mean. I just wanted to explain so that people understand. Right, go ahead.
You see in Ghana, the few people who pay taxes are those that have always been burdened. I mean, so if the person in Abosokan who makes probably more money than the teacher in a classroom, I mean, is not paying taxes because we cannot actually identify the person's income and where the person is, and now we can identify the person, then you should be able to cover. I can't give you in terms of maybe if we increase it by this margin, this is how much we are going to rake in. But what I know from practice is that if you increase the tax base, you will be able to cushion the possible shortfall in your revenue when you cut down the rate of taxes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me come to Dr. Mpedu on this. And there are other, topical matters that came up, including making national service optional. I had my own take on that. I have shared it, but I want to hear from you. Making national service voluntary. Then he says, since you are in academia, I want to run these two by you very quickly. Then he says he will review the free senior high school policy. We've spoken about a review for a long time, and we've always been rebuffed. The recent one was by the education minister, who said we didn't need a review, we needed improvement. And some wondered, improvement versus review, what's the real difference? What do you make of these two promises and actualizing them? And let me just make this clear. What is your stance on making national service optional?
Well, thank you so much. National service, as you know, I think it becomes so important for people to be patriotic as Ghanaians. All along, there are people who need to show that we love Mother Ghana. And to love Mother Ghana means that you should be given opportunity to serve in one way or the other. And to do that as a young person who has just graduated, I think, if people are given that chance to serve the nation for 1 year before they really go back to normal life, that should be very good. These are my thoughts. We are a people whereby people are not so patriotic. They always think of themselves. People are so selfish and so egoistic. But we have one nation to build. And national service, as the name implies, is a service to the nation. And I think removing it and making it, not making it mandatory, somehow, I don't think it's the best. But let's see how it goes also. But I think I did national service. It was a good thing of seriously what civil service even is. Because as a national service, all that I did was private work, private job, that is working in a private company. And so it gave me an opportunity to know my nation, to serve. And so, well, somehow, for some political gain, people will say it's not useful, but I think it's so relevant. And
what you say people will say, I want your take. What do you think? You've been through the mill. I did national service. You likely obviously did national service. What do you make of it, and how much does it contribute to what we do? Now, you know that countries like South Korea even have military service. Other countries in the West are even bringing on different forms of national service to whip up patriotism, nationalism, whatever you want to call it. He has stated his basis for wanting to make it optional. What do you think?
Well, I personally think making it compulsory will help the youth. Even though you see the intent of national service, I know now people don't, we have removed that real intention. Now people want jobs. They want something to do because they are mostly unemployed after graduation. So national service has come to be a source of employment for some people. For if not, they will just be staying at home doing nothing. So, you know, the reason for national service, I think, have been reduced to job creation, employment, having something to do after graduation, which I think is not the best reason why we should do national service. When we did national service, we did it as a service because it was done in the public service. And it was an experience that I think I enjoyed because it gave me an opportunity to work with civil servants, to know their thoughts, their way of serving the nation. And for me, it was very beneficial. But the reason why we do national service now, I think, has changed. And that's why maybe he thinks that there's no more reason. Don't make it mandatory. If people have jobs to do or some employment, why do you put them in national service to spend time on all of that? Well, that's the another reason. But then, my thought then is if we can keep the original intention, reason for national service, I think it's needful to instill some patriotism in our young people.
Let's now look at free SHS and the review of same. And what do you make of it? There has been a lot of talk about reviewing it in the past. Different forces, including the education minister, have said, no, we don't need a review, and a review is akin to this or that. But now the vice president is saying he will work at exactly that. What do you make of it?
Well, that's interesting because anytime, especially the opposition talks about review, it's giving different interpretations. And people talk about cancellation, people talk about removing subsidy and all of that. So if now the vice president himself is saying it's to be reviewed, then I think, just as the public says, right, we think there is a need for that review because the way it was introduced, with all the free that we see, it has contributed to all the challenges that we have in national affairs. And so I think we need to take a second look at it. Yes, the government has a role to play. Parents have a role to play. Schools have a role to play. PTA have a role to play. You see, nations are built together. But in Africa, when we talk of things that are free and free, people are excited because they think it should be free. And that's the reason for our poverty and our hopelessness. But then, if people become responsible and think, yes, we need to contribute, we need to be part of what is happening, we all need to work towards something that will bring total progress. I think that leads to sustainability and improvement and progress. But when that's not done, then we have this problem that we're encountering now. So I think review is so important, and that should be done objectively. And holistic outlook has to be given to the whole process, and then we have to examine what role everyone, including parents and the government and PTA, all stakeholders, the role that to play in order to make it needful. So that's my thought there.
All right, do hold for me. We'll be wrapping shortly. What is your take on same? So, national service, free SHS, improvement review. What do you make of it?
Okay, so national service from its onset is supposed to be a service to the nation. It, like my co-panelist mentioned, that it's supposed to be your contribution to nation building. So originally it is still mandatory. But what I see, I did national service, and I remember I have lived all my life in southern part and how to do my national service in Boko. It was an interesting time, to be there. It opened your eyes to see the bigger picture. But I think that an economy evolves, a country evolves over time. And I see the requirement when you're applying for a job that you should have completed your national service. So now the vice president is saying that if somebody can get a job, why should you tie him to the national service? When you are working in the company, it's also a service to the country. Because whatever you are doing, you could have been posted there in the name of national service. And now you have a company which wants to recruit you. But because you've not done your national service, you can't get a direct employment. So if we make it optional and not mandatory, I think that it will ease, it will achieve the same purpose if the person can get a job. If you get a job, it's training. National service also train you for the job. And now you have the job, you are learning. I mean,
So that answers the training question that some have raised, that national service gives them, because some of these people come straight from the tertiary institutions, no work experience, nothing. And I don't want to say clueless, but they lack a lot that you cannot directly feed into the work system. You feel going directly is still the way to go. Because
I asked myself, when I went to do my national service, what did I learn? And how different from what I'm doing today? There's no
Do you feel you learned nothing from your national service?
No, I'm saying that what I did, I went there, I was teaching. I mean, and it is the same teaching that I'm doing. So if I'd gotten somebody to employ me to teach, it would have been a continuous development.
Practically the same thing.
Practically the same thing. And almost every company, even if I've done your national service, you come, they will reorient you because there's a way they do things. You go through training, I mean, to be able to abreast yourself with how things are done. So national service is supposed to give a skill, it's supposed to give you training, it's supposed to prepare you for the job market. Now, if you get a direct job, will it give you a skill? Yes. Will it give you training? Yes. Will it be able to prepare you to do what you want to achieve? I think that it is the same route, but from different directions, and we'll be able to achieve the same purpose. Probably the name mandatory to voluntary is what has changed, but it doesn't change the end product.
All right. So final thoughts. I'd like you to share final thoughts, including amending certain portions of the 1992 Constitution and publishing contracts. I found that to be interesting. So there's been a lot of talk about corruption and everything in between. He says now contracts will be published for public scrutiny. We also know that this administration has, considering its reprisal of the erstwhile administration for sole-sourced contracts, a plethora of sole-sourced contracts, which we can allude to, which we can point to. How do you react to these points when it comes to publishing contracts and our current state of corruption, vis-a-vis even our assets declaration regime? And I've always spoken about assets and hidden liabilities where people could even be corrupt by feeding and you wouldn't know. I'll start with you and then go to Dr. Mpedu, and it's a wrap.
I don't know whether you wanted him to touch on free SHS, so I should go straight to this one. Free SHS,
I thought you were... Okay, but you can go ahead.
Yes, I think the free SHS should have been reviewed after the first term of this government.
So after the first 4 years?
I think it should have been reviewed. I mean, you can't be doing something without reviewing it. Even in our workplaces, at every year you are doing evaluation and certain amendments and things are implemented. So review is a right call.
Okay.
I mean, then going on to your substantive question on contract and corruption and all that.
If you can, feed everything into 2 minutes.
Into 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, so number one, the office of the OSP, Attorney General, and all the institutions put in place, I think it's a reactive measure to correcting corruption.
Reactive?
It's a reactive. However, putting institutions, like trying to remove the human element, is a proactive way of fighting corruption. Why do you always want the building to catch fire and you call the ambulance to come, when you could have put your house in order to prevent your house catching fire? We have built an economy which is dependent on trust, but the people cannot be trusted. So digitalization is a way of fighting corruption, to be able to remove and minimize human interface. That is why I say that the speech given by the Vice President is charting a new course and repositioning Ghana towards the fight against corruption.
How about corruption in public leadership, technocrats, politicians?
Yes.
Is it going to fight it too?
You see, when a politician or the technocrat want to be corrupt, it is through the civil servant that they work with. I mean, usually we see the corruption up there, but there's more corruption down there that we do not see. And integrating digitization is a way of restricting and minimizing the extent to which a civil servant or technocrat within the space are able to influence the system. I'm not saying that digitalization will solve our problems, but I'm saying that it is a right call to be able to remove the human element, that we cannot entirely depend on trust, and we are hoping that public officials will hold the country in trust and be able to avoid the agency cost.
So for the sake of time, publishing the contracts, what do you think this will do? That is, if it even happens.
Yes. So publishing contracts will let us know who is doing what and how was it awarded. I mean, it also serves on a check on the executive, that you keep awarding contract to this one person. What is the relationship between that company and you? So I think that it is a way of enlightening and opening up people's mind to follow how contracts are awarded and how we can be able to keep track, on those that are awarded. And it's also help in the RTI, the right to information, and it will help us to be able to derive and ask important questions. But then, you see, before I conclude, Nokia CEO said something. When they were selling to Microsoft, he said, "We did nothing, but somehow we lost."
Okay.
Nokia went to bed too early, and they didn't see that the world was changing. Since COVID-19, our country or the world has gone about 20 years ahead. If we do not prepare for our future by digitalizing our economy, we'll be left behind.
All right, thank you. Dr. Ampedu, quick thoughts.
Yes, I totally agree with you that digitalization is the way to move. We are in a nation where corruption is so endemic that for everything people do, they want to take money. And so removing that idea of money, monetary system, and putting it into a digital system, I think, is the best way to go. And for the Vice President who is hammering on that, I think that is one of the most important steps a nation like Ghana needs to take, because the biggest problem we are always confronted with is corruption. This is the way to go, to take away this big handicap of national growth, of national prosperity. Then I think some of us should give him all the support to make sure that it happens, so that the biggest problem we have in Ghana can be removed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ampedu. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Dr. Eric Boakye-Adam is Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the UPSA, and Dr. Christopher Ampedu is a political analyst. That's the first batch of our conversations. But still to come, there's a whole lot more, because guess what? If you could use your technique to critique a government or do other things that lighten the moods of people, would you use it? That's exactly what Louis Appiah has been doing with his Tales of Nazir series. We'll bring you that later on the show. But for now, let's settle for EduProof and how you can benefit from their upcoming event. Stay with us. Sweetie Abochi up next on the AM Show.
Welcome back on the AM Show. My name is Sweetie Abochi. And that was Benjamin Akapo bringing you some deep analysis on the biggest stories making the headlines today. The presidential candidates for the New Patriotic Party and everything that encapsulates his speech, education, taxes, and all that. It's time now for us to talk about education, specifically Laurentian University and how you can benefit from their upcoming event. I'm joined in the studio by Eileen Wanshao, who's the manager of international recruitment to Laurentian University. Did I get the name right?
You got my name right.
You're welcome. Oh, good. I forgot how you just taught me how to say you're welcome.
Good job.
And we also have David Odum, who's the Africa Regional Head of Laurentian University. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
How are you both feeling this morning?
We're doing great. I mean, you have to ask one whether she's coping with the weather already.
How are you coping with the weather?
I'm trying my best.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes. It's my first time in Ghana. So,
is it?
Yes.
How are you finding it?
I love the country. People are very nice, and I feel most welcomed by the people here.
Yeah, we're very warm people. Yes. I'm sure you enjoy your stay here. So let's start with a simple question. What is Laurentian University and what are you doing here in Ghana?
Laurentian University, we are located in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
And we are here to participate in some education fair and most importantly, introducing the university to the student who is thinking study overseas to another country, particularly for Canada. So that's what we are here for.
Okay. Yeah. I drove by the Joulu traffic light some time ago, 2 days ago, and I saw hundreds of people there who are trying to apply to go to Canada, which means Canada is like a hot shot right now for education. Why do you think that Ghana is the right place to pull or draw these people from to go to?
Yeah, great. So, great. Thanks. When it comes to Laurentian University, we are more particular and concerned and very, I think, one of the best universities in Canada, in North Ontario, that deals with engineering programs, health-related programs, and science programs as well. I mean, when it comes to Sudbury, it's actually called the City of Sudbury, you know. Okay. And then we have most, gigantic and most, multinational mining companies and chemical companies in Sudbury. So we are here to engage and educate most Ghanaian students, since we know Ghana is one of the mineral states in the world, actually. So we are here to educate people to take advantage of our visits, and also to engage them to educate them on how mining could be one of the best programs to study at Laurentian. I mean, when it comes to mining, I don't think of any other program or university than Laurentian University.
Is this new? Do you already have a system or something? Is this something you do often? Pull people from Ghana to Canada?
That's a very good question. And so back to your original question, why Canada?
Yeah.
So Canada is top quality of country that provide the quality of education and also has the possibility for students to learn, to work, to live in the country, has to draw global attention to international students, not only from Ghana, also from globally.
Okay.
And also for the quality of living standards as well. So that's one of the reasons. And also a multicultural welcoming, and has the international student be beneficial in an environment that welcome by Canadian local people, and also they can enjoy study and working with people from internationally. So back to their second question, why Laurentian are specialized, as David had just mentioned.
Yeah.
So Sudbury is a non-recognized mining industry in the world. That's more than 100 years ago, has the largest nickel mine deposit production in the world.
Is it?
Yes. Okay. So Laurentian established 1960s. We have a more than 63 years history. So that's where we are specialized in the mining industry because of location. And so we have a global renown of geologists, mining scientists working in the city and working for the university. We focus on undergraduate education, master, PhD, and research as well to support the city, support the industry. That's why Laurentian is the top-ranking university in the mining and the geologist field.
You have a fair coming up, but even before we talk about that, you told us why Canada, and you say Ghana. You're here in Ghana because we are one of the biggest mining hubs in Africa. But what do the people who actually go and study in Laurentian University is there a system that enables them to come back and actually do something beneficial for their home country? Or is there something like that? I'm out of curiosity.
Yeah, so I mean, as Zwan mentioned, you realize that Laurentian University provides a top quality education. The idea here is education, right? So basically education also grooms one and also gives one the technical know-how and the knowledge, to probably come up with new creative ideas. So I mean, going through the system of education at Laurentian University, it's more like an entrepreneurial, structure, and also it comes with a co-op. I mean, most people have heard of co-op programs. I mean, co-op at Laurentian University gives you a practical, hands, experiential learning, system that allows students to know how the program, not more of theory. You tend to work and school at the same time. And the co-op is part, or we call it an integral part of the system. So it's mixed. It's part of the syllabus. It's part of the modules that students learn. So we believe that students should finish, and when they complete or graduate from school, they should be able to come up with creative ideas to open their own firm, start up something for themselves. Probably you could also work for a while, gain the experience before you start up your own business.
Right.
Yeah.
Elaine, tell me about this fair you have on Saturday. Is it a recruitment admission fair? Please, what's happening on Saturday?
So on Saturday, we have a Laurentian individual fairs, and we invited the students and the parents to come to meet us. So we know there's some program people know, but there's lots of things they don't know. So then we elected opportunity, invite everybody come to the AC Hotel, and the fair start at 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So they can have some one-on-one experience to discuss with me and also my Ghana office with the counselors to understanding the program, what's the best fit, admission requirement, and most importantly, what's the process to the study permit application to Canada.
Okay.
It's quite complicated for anybody who in the beginning. So our job is to try to remove the barrier and understand the question and also understand the concern. So this one-on-one in-person experience is important, particularly to students and the family as well. Okay. So that's why we're here to invite students to come to see us.
Yeah. What are your targets group? Do you have a cutoff point?
Yes.
So what's the age bracket or the targets?
Yes. So I mean, for the we have undergrad programs. So we have a number of faculties. So we have undergrad programs and postgraduate programs. For the undergrad, we're looking at those that are done with WASI. If you have the old, we call it WASI. We have A levels, we have IB, and we have the AS, and those with the IG. So we are equally looking at both the public and the private or international schools. They can apply for the undergrad programs. And those that are done with degree could also apply for either master's or doctoral programs.
So aside assisting them with the admission process when they come on Saturday, do they enjoy any kind of discount because they came to the fair? Or what else do they stand to benefit from the fair?
Okay, great. So, I mean, Laurentian, I think, it's really popular when it comes to our financial aid. You know, we have one of the mouth-watering financial aid in Canada as it stands now, with a 60,000 outstanding scholarship with those undergrad students who want to study at Laurentian. So, yeah, it reduces the cost. I mean, studies in Laurentian or studies in Canada for undergrad programs, we say it's not cheap. So we are equally looking at when Zwan mentioned about diversity and also multicultural, integration of Laurentian university practices. We see it that it's very important to also come to the aid of students to reduce their cost of studies in Canada.
Okay, you want to add to that? Yeah.
Yes, and also David mentioned the scholarship, financial aid. Laurentian actually has the most generous scholarship in Canada.
Really?
Yes, and so this is based on the...
Sorry, what's most generous?
So,
put a figure to it.
Okay, so for example, the student, if they have 80% of increased Canadian standard at GPA, they will automatically get a $10,000 scholarship for the first year, and renewable up to 4 years. If they're the top achievers, 90%, and they receive $15,000 scholarship, and renewable up to 4 years. That's about like $60,000.
Yeah.
So that's just a $600,000 Ghanaian dollars.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
you're already familiar with the Ghana cities?
I'm here now.
Have you spent any cities yet?
Yeah, he brought me tried some local cuisine and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Which one did you try?
Tell me which one.
The fufu.
Yeah, the fufu.
The fufu.
Do you have something similar in China or Canada?
No.
No?
Yeah, it's different. So that's why I like to try different culture. Yeah. So the benefit to be in the fair, then people can bring the transcript. We can look at it and say you are eligible.
Okay.
So that will be the most discount we provide the student.
Okay. So what time does it start?
11.
From 11
to 3.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So
at AH Hotel, actually. It's Legon.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So those who are looking to come to the fair, what should they come with?
So they can come with their transcripts, or possibly we'll just go through. If they have their CV with them, it actually helps us to know whether there's need for us to close the gap or not, or probably, those who are not working, how to generate their CVs and all that. If you have a CV, that's fine. If you don't have a CV, you could that's the postgraduate student. The undergrad student can come with their transcript and we just take a look at it and we're good to go.
Are you a product of Laurentian University?
Not yet, but I'm yet to. I'm looking at doing my PhD there, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you?
I am.
Okay.
Yes, I got my first master in China and the second master Laurentian. So I'm a Laurentian product.
Okay. This is only for Saturday, right?
We have one fair for Laurentian only on Saturday, but we do have another Edu Canada fair will be happening on Sunday.
Okay.
So Sunday there's more than 30 Canadian universities and colleges.
30 Canadian universities?
More than, yes.
More than, okay.
Yeah, so we call the Edu Canada fair is on Sunday. That's another reason I'm here as well, to have students not only have an opportunity to meet a Laurentian university and also meet another Canadian institutions, and give them a more broad idea what's Canada to offer to the student. So our trade commissioner will be there as well to answer questions about Canada.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do you have any sort of system where Canadian students, native Canadians, can come here to Ghana to have hands-on experience with mining? Because you're pulling out from here because of mining. Is there some sort of exchange program like that? Not yet?
We actually have a faculty member working Laurentian University. He's from Ghana.
Okay.
So we are going to visit some universities in Ghana during my this visit in the country. So our ideal is not only introduce Canada to Ghana and also introduce to Ghana to Canada.
Yes.
So my next project is my office also working on supporting international exchanging programs. So we're trying to send the Canadian students globally, including Ghana. I believe we do have a faculty exchanging regularly between the two countries, but we're going to open up to undergraduate program, master program, PhD program to introduce Ghana to Canadian students.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming. Elaine Jean-Shao. Yes. Jean-Shao and David Adum.
Yes, please.
So on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. is a recruitment fair, or admission fair for Laurentian University. Yes. Don't miss it if you want to go to Canada. All the processes and on Sunday at Kempinski Hotel. So if you want to go to Canada to study and come back to the country and make it better, this is your chance to have a smooth admission process with some cool discounts from Laurentian University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so don't go away. Today we've given you a cocktail of conversations from politics to education. But up next, I'll be chatting with Louise Appiah, who's been doing fantastic work with Tales of Nazir series. We're back in a jiffy. Don't go away. Welcome back on the AM show. Like I said, we've given you a cocktail of conversations and discourse today. This is the final mix, the final addition, the icing on top. I'm going to have a conversation with Louise Appiah, the creator of Tales of Nazir series, who's become quite popular for taking on social and political issues with his satire. Louise, it's good to have you in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I must say you look good in person.
Thank you.
Your fashion style is just...
I'm flattered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How would you introduce yourself to a stranger? Who would you say Louise is?
I'm a free thinker, yes, but overall I'm an artist.
Okay.
Yes. I don't just subject myself to being an animator. I'm an artist. I actually paint, I draw, I sketch.
Everything art.
Yes.
How did this start for you?
I think the inspiration right from the inception was from my brother. Yes, I mean, watching him growing up, he has always been the artist. Yeah, so I sort of followed his traits, yes. And my family has been immensely supportive, with my craft or my talent, yes. And I later ventured into graphic design professionally, and I felt I needed to evolve my craft, hence animation, hence Tales of Nazir. Yes, so
who is Nazir someone in your real life, or is just
Nazir,
imaginary?
I'd say is my alter ego. Yes, I've always been that class clown, when a teacher walks into the class and it's not properly dressed or it's wearing some funny pair of shoes. I am that student who would, make fun of that. Yeah, so Nazir, I'd say, is my alter ego.
Buju Banton? What did you say?
Nazir, I would say, is my alter ego.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what we just watched, obviously you're talking about something that we all deal with in this country.
Exactly.
Before we even get to what you do with your satire, have you always been an activist? Or did this start as fun and work for you, and then at some point you realized that you could actually use this as a tool to, shed light on some of society and political issues that need to, be talked about?
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to test how far the animation would go. So I had a series of ideas, yes. But then again, I realized that me being an activist or talking about social economic issues was viable at that time. Yes, so I'd call myself an activist. Yes, I just use comedy or satire to express that. Yes, so I'll definitely call myself an activist.
So activists sometimes face a lot of backlash.
Exactly.
I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedians, and I enjoy stand-up comedy and everything comedy. So I know a lot of comedians who faced backlash from society, from political parties, from party hooligans, because they didn't know where to draw the line, or they were just making jest of situation, and some people ended up taking it too seriously. Where do you draw the line between doing this for fun and, stepping on toes intentionally, maybe not maybe intentionally or unintentionally, but to get a message out there? Where do you draw the line?
When it comes to religion, that's where I'd say I draw the line.
Okay.
Yes.
How's
but,
that?
You know, fortunately or unfortunately, our country is heavily, politically driven. So sometimes you might end up putting out a production that is only for the purpose of comedy, but also it talks about politics. But you end up distorting certain doors that may have been opened for you because you've touched on sensitive political topics. Yes, so and I have faced that.
Share that experience with me. What happened?
I mean, for example, some years ago, I approached this telecommunication company. You know, I wanted to propose the idea of using Nazir as a mascot for any of their products that they were trying to adore at that time. And these marketing executives went to watch my videos and watched an episode where Nazir was talking or expressing his views. If I may put it that way, expressing his views about the current condition of the sitting government at that time, and that blew my chance away because, yes, because I spoke about a political issue. Yeah, so that's why I said, fortunately or unfortunately, well, let's say unfortunately for me, Ghana is a heavily political-driven country. So when you are towing that line, you need to be very careful. Yes, but that doesn't change anything. I'd still stand for what I've always
Let me tell you a story of how I started following the series Tales of Nazir.
Okay.
It was about a decade ago.
Okay.
And we'd heard that Ebola was all over the place. And then I heard that Nigeria had recorded about 20 cases and 8 people were already dead. I was panicking. And someone sent me a video and it was Tales of Nazir.
Okay.
And then, it was Nazir facing Ebola. It was like, I thought it was someone serious. And then Ebola started dancing to Shatawale. And then Ebola was telling people how to, protect themselves. And it just sort of, my fear, the panic, it just eroded.
Oh, really?
Immediately.
Wow.
Fortunately, Ebola did not come to Ghana, but I think even if it had come, because of how you trivialized, not trivialized, but was able to make jest of the situation, it did me a lot of good.
Oh, wow.
So the question now is, you are already doing this civil engagement and, sending messages out there. Is this all you see yourself doing, or do you think that there's somewhere else in the political there's some sort of political career or civil, something in leadership awaiting you?
For that type of career path for me, I'd say for now it remains nebulous because I can't tell yet if I may eventually venture into politics. Yes, but for what I'm trying to do is I want to be able to teach the youth what I do. I have a lot of people in my emails, my DMs, people who want to learn what I do. So with time, I'd like to establish, if not a school, some sort of institution where I can teach people what I do. Yes, for me, it's more about the impact. Yes, it's more about the impact, not necessarily venturing into any sort of a political career. Yeah, it's more about the impact for me.
You do have a lot of influence.
Yes, I do.
How do you take that? How do you manage that? What do you do with it?
All
the 3 questions. How do you take it? What do you do with it?
Yeah. Yes. At first, it was quite a heavy toll on me. Having to wake up and seeing all these people, in your emails and in your DMs. People reacting to the things you post. But then I figured that I needed to channel that into using that platform or using that influence in impacting people positively in society. It's quite a huge task. Sometimes it drains me down. It gets me down if I feel I'm not impacting enough. Yes, but I think that's the way I handle it. I see it in the perspective of trying to impact people positively. I see it as it's even in Spider-Man. There's this saying that with true power comes a great responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I want to do now. That's how I see it. Yeah.
I know that satire is a double-edged sword. You can either use it to appreciate or critique something. And you use it to critique things, like the video we just watched. Tell me the process that went into creating that video. Just share a little bit about that for me.
Okay, so you know, I'm a realist.
Yeah.
But I like to pour comic exaggerations to a lot of situations.
Okay.
So I mean, I live in Ghana. We all live in Ghana. We know how a commodity that might be priced at 1 cedi would end up at the end buyer as 50 Ghana. Yes. So with that, I take that process and pour comic exaggerations to it. Yes.
So you pick a topic and then you find a creative way to create something satiric about it.
Yes. Which people can, you know, easily resonate to or relate to because they know it's real. That's exactly what's happening.
Have people always been very receptive, you know, to your craft? Have you ever faced some sort of resistance in this? You've been doing this for over 10 years, haven't you?
Yes. It's you know, it comes with it. At first, you know, I'm an artist, and with every artist or with most artists, I mean, inevitably you'd become an emotional person. So at first, I realized that people are really, you know, politically affiliated. You know, so sometimes if you're talking about a personality that is in high favor of some people, you end up stepping on some toes, you know, and then they come at you and, you know, come at you personally, you know.
Attack your character.
Yes. But I realized that it's part of the job.
So you never throw blows back, have you?
At first I used to, you know, like at first I used to go back and forth with some people in the comment section, but I was like, no, this is no.
You're bigger than that.
Yes, I'm bigger than that. It comes with the job. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is.
What do you do when you're not illustrating or creating or, you know?
I play games a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I play games a lot. I'm always playing games online, you know, fighting games online. That motivates me, you know. Yeah, that's really motivates me. Sometimes it's interesting when I'm online with my profile name. People see my profile name and, I'm playing, are you Nazir? No. And then we start a conversation and all that. So it's all fun. Yeah, that's what I actually do, mostly when I'm not illustrating.
You know, these kind of crafts, arts, has become a tool that we use quite popularly to critique societal and political issues. Have you ever been approached by maybe a sector, a government, a party, a group to create something as propaganda against another person?
Yes, severally.
Do you take those on? Do you?
Yeah, severally, but I don't put my face to it. Yes, I don't put my face to it, I don't put my brand name or the character Nazir to it. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's also business. Yeah, so I'm just doing.
So you just take your money and create what?
Yeah, but I just don't add the affiliation to it. Yes.
On the back of that, let's watch one of the videos called Bribery Gone Wrong. This is an interesting one. Enjoy. How different is this character from you, Louis?
You know, like I was saying earlier, when artists are asked to draw any character, they subconsciously draw characters that look like themselves. Yes. Yeah. For me, I didn't necessarily look at anyone to draw. I just drew Nazir.
And you're a musician, so all the songs that we hear in your videos,
most of it.
You compose them yourself?
Yeah, most of it.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, you know, these days you can't use any song that you want because of these copyright issues. So sometimes I just like to create my own songs and then use them for my episodes. Yeah, just to veer away from the whole copyright issues. Yes.
Do you have a song that's released we can go and listen to, stream somewhere?
No, I have a song out there called Man a Bad Man.
Okay.
Yes, I made that because of my episode, because of Nazir. Yes, I didn't put it out there that, you know, I'm the musician, you know, all that. Yeah, but it's out there, Man a Bad Man by Louis. So, yeah, you can go and check it out.
Look at how easily you're putting out there. It's just out there. But you're a musician. Or that's not an area you want to explore?
Maybe in future. In future, yes, maybe in future. But now, you know, animation is really broad and I've not really explored it, you know, to the maximum or to my satisfaction. So that alone is something that I'm yet to, you know, fulfill myself with before I venture into music. Yeah.
Do you think we have an industry in Ghana?
Animation industry?
Yeah. Do you think we have a thriving industry in Ghana? I've seen some animation, Asanti War and the rest. Do you think we are quite receptive to these forms of art?
Now, yes. I always call myself a scapegoat, you know, because, you know, from the inception of Nazir, a lot of brands weren't using the medium to advertise their products and services,
right.
you know. But these days, you turn on the TV and you see a lot of animated content. I wouldn't necessarily call it an industry, but we are gradually evolving. Yes, it's not as rapid as I want it to be, or we want it to be, but we're gradually evolving. I mean, today people can fill the Silverbed cinemas to watch an animated feature film. I did that in 2016.
Okay.
I filled up the entire Silverbed cinema, and they all Ghanaians came in their numbers to watch animated content. So I think we're gradually getting there, but I wouldn't necessarily call it an industry.
Okay.
Yes.
Look, so we have a long way to go then.
Yes,
but I think we're heading there.
Yes, we are.
Talking about money, do you make money from this?
Oh, yes,
from views on YouTube?
Yeah, views and you know, commissions. Yes, yes.
Do you pay taxes?
Oh, yes, I do.
How do you pay taxes?
Oh, that I do because I have people who work with me. Yes, so I do pay taxes.
I don't understand. So when you pay them, you pay taxes?
Yes, I
through
pay.
Their...
Yes.
Okay. It was nice chatting with you, Nazir. I called you Nazir.
Like
Louis.
Yes.
Any final words to your fans out there? Anything we should expect soon dropping?
First of all, apologies to my fans for staying quiet for some time. Yeah, but I'm back and I promise to stay consistent this year. I'm also working on a movie, and hopefully at the latter part of this year I would announce it, and then we start the promotion on that. Yeah, but this year I would stay consistent. Yes.
We hope so. We are looking forward to it.
Yes.
Do you collaborate, or are you thinking of collaborating with any of the comedians or other forms of artists that we have in the country?
Well, with regard to the artists, the music artists,
comedians, other illustrators like yourself.
Yes, I have done that in the past. Yes, but I'm still looking forward to collaborate with more talents. Yes. I haven't necessarily worked with any comedians, so I think it's just DKB.
Ah, okay.
Yes, but that was a long time ago. Yes, but I'll definitely look into that. Yes.
Do you voice your content yourself? Is that your voice?
So, at first, in my interviews when they ask me, I like to dodge this question. Yes, but I mean, I'm sure everybody knows. Yes, I'm the voice behind Nazir. Yes, so and most of the characters.
Do you want to give us like a line or two before you go? I can give you a beat, No. I can give you a beat. Let's go.
In terms of like me being
you're a musician.
Oh, no,
and you voice your own content, you write songs and all that.
Yes. I'm sure with time. Now, I'm not 100% confident in that genre.
But you can do something.
Oh.
Come on. It's Friday. Wrap up the show for us. Let's go. Should I give you a beat?
Oh, no. But the song I have is Man a Bad Man. So it goes like, make them know, say I'm Man a Bad Man. Every time you come around. That's all.
Hey! Thank you so much, Louis Appiah, who's the creator of Tales of Nazir. But how are you receiving all this? How do you feel about everything we've talked about today? Talk to us on social media. And I'm not sure if we open the phone lines, but if we do, then tell us. We have a few minutes before we wrap up. So you can call us and tell us what you think. Nazir is here in the studio. Louis is here in the studio with us, the creator of Tales of Nazir. It's been fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming. We're looking forward to everything that you're going to be doing this year, and hopefully you make more money and then the industry thrives, because we need it. This is a tool to check governments, to check society. You're doing good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so that's how we are wrapping up on the AM show today. My name is Sweetie Abochi. I did this with Benjamin Akako. We are back on your screens on Monday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Don't go away. But up next is Aisha Ibrahim with News Desk. Keep watching.